so much, yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin our meeting for this evening. So this is our regularly scheduled city council meeting for May 5th, 2025. The time is just after 6 o'clock, 6:10 p.m. So we're going to begin this meeting. Again, thank you to everyone for being here. It's great to see so many people. Begin this with an invocation offered by Pastor Wayne Eklund of the First Assembly of God Church. So if you please come forward, and then if everyone would please stand for their prayer and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for our city, our valley, and our state. Thank you for dear people with servants' hearts. May each one of them be blessed. In this place this evening, I pray for wisdom, for understanding, and for acceptance of ideas, angles, and stances. I pray for positive dialogue. I pray for no need for posturing and for calm objectivity to prevail. Lord, you love everyone here tonight. May your best for this city be accomplished. And I give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Pastor, for being here. We appreciate that. It was a wonderful way to begin us. We really appreciate your time. Madam Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Councilor Doty?
Here.
Stotty?
Here.
Register?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Allgood?
Here.
Dittenberg?
Here. Very good. Thank you so much. All council members are present. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding an item on the agenda this evening? Okay, so with that, we will get into audience participation. We do have a couple people signed up on that. So first is Tammy Dittenberg. If you could please come forward, state your name, and then you will have 3 minutes. And so that will be up on the clock in front here and then also there. So if you could please keep your minutes at 3 minutes or less, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
My name is Tammy Dittenberg. I live at 2220 Arlington Avenue in Caldwell. Mayor and council members, public records are those created or received by public officials that by virtue of their existence belong to the people. There are exceptions set forth in code, but for the most part, any communication, scrap of paper, text, email, if it involves city business, belongs to the public. I've made 2 requests for public records since February. I try not to waste staff time, so I request only records that I know exist or that I am certain through educated deduction exist. While most of this elected body wisely limits social media posts in their official capacities, not all do. One council member openly invited residents to reach out related to the hotel project to their personal email and Facebook Messenger. They also assured those reaching out of confidentiality. When it was brought to their attention that they may be opening those platforms to public records searches and might not legally withhold names for those reaching out, they expressed that they are entitled to have those communications, use those platforms, and do it confidentially. Some key things from reading the records that warrant policy review in the city. The first is that if there is not, there should be a policy related to how city council members are appropriately to engage with staff. Lording over or badgering employees to provide process or data they do not have authority or staff to collect creates liability for the city and causes turnover. Secondly, one communication released used Facebook Messenger and involved what seems on its face the seeking of legal advice from an elected official in another jurisdiction wholly unqualified to issue legal advice and whose jurisdiction has competing interests. Also in that missive, the council member libeled a citizen and expressed the desire that language not be included in a final contract in order that they could point it out. Next, if there is no such policy, please consider one that bars the city from indemnifying any elected official who refuses to comply with public records law or who conducts city business on a platform other than city council email or city-issued phone. This is not an issue unique to Caldwell. It's happening in other locations, and city council members are being sued by news outlets and by their own cities for this exact same behavior. These are the kinds of missteps that make ICRIMP step back and expose taxpayers to liability. Lastly, personal cell phones have no place on the dais, and they should be banned. And you need a risk manager. And that is all, and I stand for questions.
I don't see any, so thank you for being here. Jean Cradbury. And then same if you could just state your address for the record, and then you'll have up to 3 minutes for your presentation as well.
Hi, Jean Cradbury. I fully understand that you have a tough and many times a thankless job. The meetings and preparation materials are daunting. There are 435 pages just for tonight's meeting. I know I have spoken numerous times on my concerns for Caldwell. I want to share an example about the auto industry. Just before COVID hit, they could see the writing on the wall. Vehicle sales had been waning, so they temporarily stopped the order of the necessary computer chips. Well, lo and behold, when they needed to order some, there weren't any. The computer chips were all taken by the tablets and laptops needed for work and school during COVID. There was a shortage of vehicles because of one necessary piece or part, a computer chip. Granted, they didn't know COVID would hit, but they didn't think outside the box nor look ahead to possible effects of their decisions, and the consumer paid the price with exorbitant inflated vehicle costs. That's exactly what has happened with Caldwell's budget. You claim you want what is best for the city and to attract big businesses to help with the bottom line. A comment was made that if we build it, they will come. Unfortunately, with the current budget challenges and the possible state of questionable budget woes, there are citizens openly saying they'd like to move, exiting, not entering. People are afraid of the tax increases that could be coming in the very near future. The city treasurer even commented at the budget workshop, quote, that the sustainable revenue source for budget projections is property taxes. Personnel costs are typically based on the property tax revenues. It is wise to be cautious to not steadily depend on variable revenues such as licenses, permits, grants, etc., end quote. In other words, the citizens of Caldwell could feel the burden by higher property tax because we aren't taking in other means of revenue. Not good. Money has been spent frivolously, thinking we have an endless pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. In the last 3 to 4 years, countless new jobs have been created. When someone chooses to leave or is terminated, the city has the habit of advertising or hiring the next person at a higher salary, which affects the budget. It seems to be a vicious cycle. Right now, Caldwell's reputation is slipping even more. Who's going to want to choose to move to Caldwell knowing that spending has been haphazard, the budget is out of whack, and decisions that directly affect the bottom line are not being weighed? People have implored the city to slow down, but it's fallen on deaf ears. Caldwell has a lot to offer and some unique charm, but it's going to crumble quickly if we can't hone the spending habits and get a grip on the budget. I've heard time and time again that money is allocated to cover this overspending, but what are these departments learning? Certainly not to stay in their budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that's all that have signed up for audience participations. That moves us into consent calendar, and we do have, I believe, one amendment to that.
Mr.
Councilor
Mayor,
Brody.
for the consent calendar, make a motion to move item number 11 from the consent calendar to new business for further discussion as new business, item number 13.
Second.
So motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes.
Mr. Mayor.
Is there another one?
Contact, there's a second
Oh.
one that needs to be on there, included in that motion as well, please.
You want me to add it to this one, or should we just do another one?
Yeah, we need to add that because that was
Okay,
omitted.
and let's add a new business item, motion to add a new business item, number 11, to read, consider resolution number 179-25, authorizing the execution of agreements between the City of Caldwell and Jones Williams Furman Gorley, PA, for providing professional legal services for right-of-way procurement related to the Fairgrounds Sewer Line Extension. Carl Anderson condemnation and Lawrence and Allison Reese condemnation.
Very good. So that's a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Register for that amendment as well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. Okay, so now before the council is the amended consent calendar, which does not include number 11, which has been moved to new business. Do we have a motion for approval of the amended consent calendar?
So moved.
And a second? Second. It's a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddick. Any discussion on that motion? So with that, voting is open at this time. Very good. So we do a voice vote. Debbie, do you mind doing a voice vote for Counselor Allgood? Okay, very good. And then the remaining votes, we can, or we lost everybody.
Okay.
Do we have that? Can we
We
bring that
caught
back
it
up?
up, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's on there.
Oh, did it already reveal? Maybe it did. I was not. So those were all, I'm guessing greens.
Yes,
Okay,
it
so
was.
that passes unanimously. That moves us into there is no old business to note, and so that does move us into new business. So our first item of new business is consider recommendation from myself for the appointment of the Caldwell City Clerk for a term to effective August 30th, 2025. So we're super excited. I believe she is residing in eastern Idaho, and so was unable to make the trip over this evening, but she is on Teams, I believe, so that we can have her pull up. But super excited for Christina to have her presented to all of you. She obviously met with the interview panel and was the #1 choice from them. I had the opportunity to meet with her and was extremely impressed. We're super excited to steal her from the city of Ammon and for her to make her way over to the Treasure of the Valley, Caldwell, Idaho. So excited for that. So Christina, I'll turn it over to you if you just have a few things you'd like to say.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me here tonight. It looks like I'm having some issues with my video. I apologize. There's like 50-mile-an-hour wind outside right now, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
And we can hear you perfectly.
Perfect, great. Like I said, I'm super excited to be here with you all tonight, and looking forward to meeting all of you in person in just a few weeks, should everything go acceptably. I am currently the city clerk for the city of Ammon, like Mayor Wagner mentioned. I've been there for about 5.5 years. I have a background in working in education. I have degrees in political science and public administration, so really excited about the opportunity and would be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions? I do not see any, so very well done. So with that, if you don't have any other comments, Christina, we'll go to a motion on our end.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
can you give
yes.
us just a second? Who was on the interview committee, and if anyone's present, would they mind?
Very good. So
Speaking.
Debbie was.
Chuck and I were.
Very good. So yes, any,
No,
sorry.
we had a great experience. There was a nice group of people that applied, some very, very good candidates, but by far, she was the best, and I don't think there was any question about that, and we're very happy to have her here.
very good. Thank you so much. And Councilor
Yeah, Mr.
Stoddard?
Mayor, I ditto what Councilman Allgood said relative to her background and everything. It was very impressive compared to the other candidates, in my opinion, and I think hopefully we'll have a Debbie second for the years ahead. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. And it's great to see the amazing applicants that keep coming to the city of Caldwell. Our staff is, bar none, the best in the valley, in the state. And so we're just excited to continue to add to that with Christina. So with that, I would stand for a motion from council for the appointment of Christina, and remind me, last name, I'm terrible with last names. What was that?
Bouchan,
Bouchan? Buchan?
so moved.
Very good. And do we have a second?
Second.
So that's a motion from Councilor Stoddick with a second from Councilor Allgood for the appointment of Christina Buchan as the Caldwell City Clerk. Any discussion on that motion? So with that, voting is open at this time. Hey, Chris, you're back. Out of order, but you're back. So very good. All votes are cast. Voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. So congratulations to Christina. We are very, very excited to have her on board. She's going to be an amazing member of our team. So thank you for that support for her and for that decision. So thank you so much. That will move us into new business item number 2, and this is for a public hearing for a vacation request. This is for a request by Canyon County to vacate a portion of North 13th Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You,
See
Joe.
if the quick presentation pops up. Awesome. Thank you, Eddie. So, yeah, as noted, first public hearing item on tonight is just for a quick vacation, well, quick, I hope, a vacation application by the Canyon County. It is a portion of 13th Avenue between the public alley along the railroad and Albany. It is an area that the county actually purchased all 3 parcels to the northwest, as well as a parcel directly to the southeast, in order to expand the parking lot and basically construct additional parking for the county, especially because the parking lot directly to the north is being replaced with their new sheriff's office that has already gone through all of the required approvals with the city. So we're just asking for the vacation here. This is an exhibit discussing that, or depicting the actual vacation boundary. Traffic Commission recommended approval of this with the condition that, I guess I could put it here, with the condition that there be a new public utility easement over an existing storm drain, as well as a future pressurized sewer line that the city plans to put there. My understanding is that that easement is actually on the agenda tonight as well, or was potentially approved already through the consent calendar. There was one piece of public testimony provided in opposition to the request, and just noted the below comment here. They asked that the city not vacate it, that the county is encroaching on the neighborhood, and that said that they have not been good neighbors during construction of the parking lot. The applicant, Rick Britton, is here to discuss any other questions you guys may have, and I will stand for any questions from the city side.
Very good. Thank you so much. Councilor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. What is the fair market value for that piece of property?
I have no idea, sir.
Well, the reason I ask is it seems like we get a new bill from the county quite often for different services that they provide, so I think it would be fair if the county paid the fair market price for that piece of property. Thank you.
Fair enough.
Councilor Stoll.
Mr. Mayor, I would second what Councilor Doty said. What's the market value? And I think they should pay for it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, Joe, so I just want to confirm, because I looked this up on Google Maps, and there's 2 residences that driveways come onto that piece of road. And so my question is, does the county own both of those residences, or
Yes.
we're not gonna leave those people high and dry, correct?
Correct. The residents directly adjacent to Ariel is old. Those
Okay.
have both been scrapped from my understanding. At least the ones to the northwest for sure. The one on the southeast, I believe, also has.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't want to leave residents without a way to get in and out of the driveway.
They will not. And they're not vacating the public alley along the railroad, so that access would still be available.
Thank you.
Very good. And I can confirm both those properties are owned by Canyon County, as you just said. I just did look at that
Yes.
on that. Any other questions? Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Joe. Not to make this difficult on you, but before the time slips, I am concerned because we're getting presented with bills from the county in various different ways right now, and there's other negotiations going on with us, and as much as we want to be good partners with them, I want it to be a two-way road, no pun intended here. But I think we need more questions answered before we can move ahead with this.
Okay.
As much as it sounds easy,
Sure.
it might not be easy, but I do have some concerns, and so we'll see how this goes, but thank you, Joe.
Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but my understanding was with other vacation requests for right-of-way, there was not a formal process set up internally with the city to accept payment for right-of-way. I don't know if that's changed, but that is my understanding. I'm sure that is something that Oscar and the city can continue to look into. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor.
No, you are absolutely correct, because I've actually had that discussion many times with Mr. McDonald over the years, not on this one specifically, but over the years, talking about, even when I was the planner, we talked about it when I came over from ACHD on that. So we do not currently have a mechanism to charge for vacations for right-of-way in that regards. So, and I believe that would be a correct assessment. Mr. McDonald, he's shaking his head, yes. No. So, okay, Councilor
I
Doty.
would just add to that, then either we need to create a mechanism or land swap or see what is legal to be done so that we get a fair deal as well. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So there was, nobody was signed up in this regards, so I don't know if
The applicant is here.
the applicant does want to speak, or Mr. McDonald, either one has anything that they would like to say before the council. You could. Okay, very good. So with that, unless council does have any questions for staff, or if you would like to hear from that, we can go in the direction you'd like to proceed. Councillor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, I can either make a motion to deny it, and I guess this is for discussion from the council, or we can push it to a date certain in the future so that we can get some answers to, if we're not going to be able to receive payment, what can we legally do in order, in my opinion, to make it a fair swap? So rather than put people on the point right now today to answer that, would council prefer to see it come back at a later date, or my motion would be to deny it?
Is that a motion?
No, I think he's just looking for discussion, yeah. Councillor Register.
I just think we should postpone it instead of denying it altogether so that all the questions can get answered and then figure it out.
Okay, very good. And then I do not believe we would need to put it for a date certain because it just could come back on any agenda when it's ready. Is that correct? So basically just. Either one. So if you want a date certain or if you want to just table it and then we can bring it back when it's ready.
What would you prefer?
I would say table. That way we just know for certain we can get those questions. It could come back at the very next one, but if something came up, then it would allow us a little bit more time if it needed to come back in June. So
Then I'd be happy to make a motion to table it until it's prepared to come back before council.
very good. So
Second.
and that'd be a motion from Councillor Doty for tabling this item and a second from Councillor Stoddard. Any discussion on that motion? So with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion passes. So that item has been tabled indefinitely. So we'll obviously reach out and have some discussion and kind of figure some things out and then bring it back another time. So we appreciate you taking the time to be here. So on that. Okay, that then moves us to item number 3. Actually, it'll move us to item number 4 because 3 is a moot point at this time. That was the bill and ordinance for the vacation, so we'll move right into item number 4. And so this is a zoning request for our City of Caldwell Executive Airport. So Zone 24-5, applicant Scott Swanson. So with that, Garland, we'll turn it over to you for that presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Garlene Davis, Planner 1, 205 South 6th Avenue, Caldwell, Idaho. The subject parcels for tonight are located approximately quarter of a mile west of the East Linden Street and South KCID Road intersection. The site has frontages on 2 sides, on East Linden Street to the north and on South KCID Road to the east. In 2006, this site was annexed into the city with the M1 light industrial zoning designation with an APO1 overlay zone district. The site houses the Hubler Terminal. The rest of the site consists of undeveloped land owned by the city. The site is currently surrounded by airport parcels to the northwest, the west, and the southwest, and by light industrial parcels on to the north, east, and south. The parcel directly adjacent to the site on the northeast has recently been approved by the City Council for an industrial subdivision. The application before you tonight is for the rezoning of 8 parcels totaling approximately 32.34 acres of land from M1 light industrial to AD Airport District Zone. The comp plan designate the subject site and surrounding parcels as special purpose, highlighting their unique function within the city. As such, the Caldwell Executive Airport is essential to the city's planning strategy, enhancing economic and job growth. The proposed rezoning of these parcels, which are designated for airport use in the airport master plan, is consistent with the comprehensive plan's goal and policies, and it will support the airport's viability and economic benefits. The Airport District Zone aims to ensure safe and efficient airport operations, providing necessary facilities and services while protecting interest and investment. The applicant's proposal to rezone these parcels to the AD zone aligns with FAA directives to protect the area surrounding the airport. The rezoning will also aligns with their designation with the intended purpose of the area. It will impose more restrictive land use regulations and to better accommodate future development of the airport. Staff find that the rezoning is compliant with the city code and the comprehensive plan as well. The Planning and Zoning Department formally notified the public and relevant public agencies about this hearing. We received no comment from the agencies or the public. The hearing examiner on the 9th of April recommended approval for this, and staff has no specific site-specific conditions or concern. Staff recommends that if the council approves the request, that such request be subject to the conditions as specified in findings of fact, conclusions of law, and order of decision. I will stand for any questions.
Good. Thank you so much, Carleen. Excellent job, by the way. Very well done. Any questions for staff at this time? Counselor
One quick
Alden.
question,
Yes.
Darlene. The property we're talking about, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, I just wanted it on the record. The property we're talking about is 100% owned by the city, right?
Yes.
There's no private property being affected by this?
Totally by the city, yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Mr. Swanson, do you mind coming forward? I did write your name in here, just so you're aware, so I did put you on the in favor list. So I figured you were, so, on that. So do you mind just a really brief description of the request and then stand for any questions?
Scott Swanson, 4814 East Linden Street, Caldwell, Idaho, and Director of Aviation for the city. So these parcels I ran into trying to work one hangar project on the north side, and then that's when I realized that that entire north side was still zoned M1, even though it's been 19 years since that property was picked up. So doing the right thing is getting in, rezoning all that property to Airport District, and then moving forward from there as we continue to build out on the airport over the next few years. And that way we'll not have this underlying issue of just dealing with additional paperwork or special use permits for the area. So now with the council's approval on this, ideally is that going forward, we won't have this issue again, and any more property the airport potentially picks up in the future will automatically get zoned in the airport district instead of one first and the other. So that is all I have to say, sir.
Very good. Any questions? I don't see any. So thank you so much, and thank you for all you do. So
thank you, sir.
It's so exciting what's all happening out of the Caldwell Executive Airport. Okay, with that, I stand for a motion to close public testimony.
So moved.
And a second? Motion from Councilor Stoddard and a second from Councilor Register. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That public testimony is closed. So that turns it over to council. If you do have any other questions of staff, they're available, or any discussion or any motions.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Alden.
I'm ready for motion.
Yep.
Based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the Caldwell City Council hereby orders that case number ZON 2405, a request by the City of Caldwell Executive Airport for a rezone is approved with the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Denver for approval of Zone 24-05, the requested rezone as described in the presentation. Any discussion on that motion? With that, voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. And I'd stand for motion to close this public hearing item. And a second? Motion from Councilor Stoddard, a second from Councilor Register. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That motion passes. And that moves us into item number 5, and this is the bill and ordinance that accompanies the rezone request. So this is Bill 88, Ordinance 3649. Do we have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance? Yes, Councilor Allgood.
I'll sponsor Bill number 88, ordinance number 3649, and move for its passage by title only.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion from Counselor Allgood and a second from Counselor Dimber for adoption of Bill 88, Ordinance 3649, move for its passage by title only. Any discussion on that motion? And with that, voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously as well. That'll move us into item number 6. So this is a quasi-judicial public hearing. This is a request for annexation and subdivision and a planned unit development. This is for a request from Toll West regarding annexation of 8 parcels and for the preliminary plats of Verbena Ranch. This project was originally heard by the council, was a request for reconsideration, which was approved, and so it is back on that. And so in regards to that, just so everybody's aware, when this happens, it is a new hearing. So new testimony, new notices were sent out in that regard, so we will be hearing from all those that have signed up here shortly. But first of all, it's Joe, so the time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Joe Dodson, Principal Planner here at the City of Caldwell, 205 South 6th Avenue. Again, this is for Verbena Ranch, second, maybe 2.5 times that you've heard it. Originally, January 21st was the first city council hearing, then they had a reconsideration hearing in March, which that request was approved by city council. And we are here now with the new hearing date following the reconsideration request. Just to reiterate, I won't probably go into as much detail as I did the first time unless you ask me to. I still have most of the details rumbling around up top, but otherwise I'll try to keep it simpler just so we can hear from the applicant as well. This project does encompass approximately 282 acres on both sides, east and west of 10th Avenue, south of Homedale, for about a half mile of frontage on 10th. They have frontage on Homedale, 10th, and on Tana currently. They will also have frontage on Bear and Moss, which are 2 new collector roads that they would be constructing were they to be approved tonight. So that Bear would be on the very west boundary, Moss would run along the entire south boundary of the project. Around the subject site, there's a number of undeveloped county parcels, some county subdivision to the south, a couple school sites, well, 3 technically, Valley View Middle School and Falcon Ridge Elementary to the south, and then Valley View High School to the northeast. Directly to the south, on the west side of 10th, is the recently approved Element Ridge subdivision, which the zoning map hasn't been updated yet, but it was zoned R1 as well. Within this area, this is the same map that you guys have seen before for this project. The only change was that the Element Ridge subdivision, again, number 1 there, was approved. So within the staff report, I hope everybody saw that there was strike-through and underline changes. I did that so that hopefully it was clear everybody saw what the changes were, both in the analysis as well as what was being proposed since the original city council hearing. As far as the applicant requests, they have not changed overall with the application requests. So they're requesting annexation of 282.5 acres for an R1 zone, a master PUD, planned unit development, for the entire project boundary, and then 6 individual preliminary plats. The proposed zoning of R1 is compatible with the comprehensive plan, and staff finds that it's compatible with the existing and planned development in the area as well. Overall, with the zoning, both the previous and proposed, frankly, find that it is also compatible with those zoning regulations. As far as the specific preliminary plats and PUD, the proposal includes a total of 1,019 dwelling units, which is 3.6 units per acre. Through the PUD, and to help provide different housing types, they have proposed or requested some deviations through the planned unit development process. Again, to reiterate, this project was submitted many months ago, so they are being reviewed and were reviewed under the previous zoning code, not the one that was adopted a couple weeks ago. Through the PUD, they are generally requesting a maximum height of 30 feet instead of 25, smaller minimum lot sizes, reduced frontage requirements, and a 5-foot interior setback instead of 6, which again, old code. They're proposing to maintain the garage setback of 20 feet and the 15-foot street side setback for all of the single-family homes. They are proposing within Verbena Ranch Place, which is at the north, well, the very south boundary, Verbena Ranch Place, directly north of Valley View Middle School. We're proposing 4plexes, and they're in pinwheel style, which means there's doors, 1 door on each side, so there's no garages. It's just a shared parking area. Staff does note that the proposed deviations to the setbacks that they've requested, most of them actually match the new code for the, well, frankly, the R1 and the R2 zoning district. This is an updated map and table that's in the staff report about what their requests are for the minimum lot sizes. Those highlighted sections are the 4 plats that were increased and modified in order to accommodate a specific request at the January council hearing about having a minimum lot size of at least 5,000 square feet, which is, yes, below the R1 of 8,000, but within the allowed deviations regarding, or within the planned unit development code. As far as amenities are concerned, the applicant is providing a number. I won't read them all, but multiple tot lots, multiple swimming pools and clubhouses, a lot of open space, as well as a number of pathways throughout the property. Each plat, in terms of the planned unit development code and the required amenities and open space, can stand on its own. They did not try to count open space on the east side of 10th for the west side of 10th in order to meet the code. Each plat does stand on their own. Overall, the applicant is proposing open space and amenities well in excess of code requirements, and that even doesn't include their regional pathway along the east boundary as well as their pathways along the canals. So they're definitely proposing amenities and pathways beyond the minimum requirements. In addition to the amenities and all the other PD requirements as well as requests, they are requesting to have private streets on the west side of the project, as well as the private streets within the Verbena Ranch Place, which functions as a multifamily development, although they're all individually platted lots. That's standard for that when they don't have garages. The west side would have 3 gates and then private roads that are proposed to be constructed at the full public street right-of-way width, so no request to deviate on the right-of-way width, just that they would be owned and maintained by the HOA and have gates in order to provide a little bit different demographic and privacy. The gates have been okayed by the fire marshal. They've had multiple meetings about it. They've provided specific turnarounds in there for fire and EMS in general, and those have all been approved. As far as access, the proposed development will have adequate access and sewer availability. The known issue in the area is water pressure, as discussed before. However, to be very clear, the applicant is proposing to construct a regional well within this project that is the critical need in this entire pressure zone. So I do want to make that clear. As far as notifications, no new agency notifications were received. The last time this was discussed, Valley View School District discussed their donation agreement, which has already been in place between the applicant and Valley View. ITD also noted that they didn't have any concerns with the project and stated that the Karcher improvements will accommodate the additional dwellings and density. Canyon Highway District had some comments and requests that's been discussed and rebutted within the engineering staff report. Fire has also approved the access plans and phasing plans. As far as public testimony, there was one public testimony in support. There's a number of comments provided in opposition, both verbally at the last hearing as well as written. There was one new written piece of testimony provided, I believe today, sent in and had similar concerns with traffic, neighborhood compatibility, water availability, as well as they requested that the council require less grass so that there's less watering. That was a very specific comment. As far as the modifications since January, I just wanted to circle back on this so it's very clear. This was discussed within their reconsideration request, but also just to be clear here, they increased the overall minimum lot size to 5,000 square feet. That impacted 4 of the preliminary plats. They lost 20 single-family lots because of that, so technically their density decreased. They are also proposing that all plats west of 10th are now to be age-restricted. Previously, it was one of the 3 on the west side was age-restricted, the other 2 were age-targeted. Now they're proposing all 3 to be age-restricted. And then they also modified pretty much all of them, but at least some of the plats and landscape plans to comply with other conditions of approval that we had in the staff report. So there were things that were stricken because it was unnecessary at this point. And then they have also moved forward with the design of the regional well site at risk because they have not received their approvals from us, but they are still doing the design I will note that they've also submitted design for widening and improving Homedale and 10th at risk anyways to show good faith with the city. I will hand it over to the city engineer to just reiterate a couple of the public improvements, and then I'll circle back.
Haley? Are you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. As Joe indicated, the applicant has been very agreeable to work with. We have requested some last-minute changes from them throughout this process, and they have been very quick to make those changes on our behalf. So I really appreciate that effort on their end. Additionally, as Joe mentioned, they are providing some improvements that are above and beyond for a typical subdivision and what a typical developer would be developing with a project of this scale. They are donating property for a regional well, which will service the entire zone. In addition to them donating the property, they are also managing the design and construction of both the test well and assuming that the water comes back of good quality, they are proceeding with the design and construction of the actual well. That the construction of the test well, if not already under construction, will be starting construction any day. So again, as mentioned, they've been going at risk on the city's behalf to get that water solution for this zone. Additionally, the developer is completing the full signal at the intersection of 10th and Homedale. As you all know, this is an intersection that already sees concern, and so it's wonderful that the developer is moving forward with getting the signal there, again, moving forward at risk before any approvals come to them. And then completing and as they develop and they submit their building permits, the city will receive their traffic impact fees. It will help the city towards the goal of completing the improvements along 10th Avenue off-site of their subdivision so that we can create a safer network along 10th.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. So with that, staff does recommend if city council approves the subject application, plural, applications, that it be subject to the conditions of approval within the findings of fact, conclusions of the law, and order of decision, and staff will stand for any questions that council may have.
Very good. Councilor Williams, and then Councilor Register, then Councilor Doty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joe, I appreciate the presentation, and especially your slide that showed that when this was denied, the recommendations that were made to them have been met. Is that what I understood you to show us in that one slide?
Councilor Williams, that is correct. There were some specific comments made, and these were in response to that, which they discussed within their reconsideration request, and as well as carried forward to this actual hearing.
So it occurs to me then that when we make a denial and we are required to give remedial opportunity to them, they took that in good faith and did that. And so, again, thank you for doing that for us. You don't happen to know what the amount of the impact fees is, do you? Or
Councilor Williams, my total impact fees, like that would be fire, parks, no. I have heard, and Haley might know better than me, but when it comes to just the traffic impact fees would be well over $1 million, from my understanding. And that, again, that does not include the other building permit impact fees that would be assessed on each of the permits too.
I did not calculate this in advance. Per home, it'll be about $4,200. I'm sure if you ask the applicant, they have already completed this calculation and are well prepared to make the payment.
thank you very much.
I imagine they know the number all too well. So also, Councilor Register.
Yes, thank you. I have a bunch of questions, but I think most of these are probably going to go to the applicant. But I have one question for you. On the checklist for the applicant, there is a spot that says the intensity of development in the new zoning district is not expected to create significantly adverse impacts to surrounding properties or the neighborhood, or has proposed efforts to mitigate or minimize such adverse impacts, and it's marked not compliant. Can you just explain exactly what that means so I know exactly what that means? There was one other one that was non-compliant, which was the annexation is reasonably necessary for the orderly development of the city, and that was a not compliant, so I'm guessing that means it's not necessary, or no. But is that what it means when it says that it will significantly have significant adverse impacts to surrounding properties or neighborhoods?
So, Council Register, Council, that was specific to the previous denial. Those were the old findings, the criteria. And after going to the council hearing, hearing the feedback from council with your denial motions, et cetera, I have to go back and then go and look through all those criteria and try to mark which one would be applicable to the verbiage that was discussed at the council meeting. Those were the two that I utilized and marked as not being compliant based on the feedback that the denial motion carried at that time. That is old, and for this hearing, generally irrelevant, because now there's a new set of criteria which you guys have to find if they're compliant or not compliant with moving forward. So within the staff report, you'll see that the new set has marked on both sides because we're here tonight.
Okay, so at this point now, you've found that the annexation is reasonably necessary for orderly development of the city and that it will not create significantly adverse impacts to surrounding properties or neighborhoods.
Well, staff is not typically allowed to make a recommendation, but I would say yes.
Okay. That's all I have for you. I think the rest probably go to the applicant. Thank you.
Councilor Doty?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to know what happens to the well once it's done. Would it come back to the city for maintenance and care, and is that what's going to happen if it's approved?
Yes, Councilman Doty, that is correct. Once the well is completed, it will be dedicated to the city, and as with all of our other municipal wells, the city will maintain and operate.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Stanek, and then we'll come back to Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Joe or Katie, on the stoplight, will that be in before the project begins, or what's the time on that? Because the reason I'm asking is back in my prior years, I still remember Cirrus Point, and they said we're going to put a stoplight in. It never happened, and it finally came in afterward, many years afterwards, so.
Councilman Stanek, thank you for the clarification. The developer is agreeing to proceed with the construction of the light as part of their first phase of development. Regardless of which of the subdivisions moves first, it'll be part of the first phase.
Okay, and the second question I had is, remember last time, again, I had a problem with the 55 plus. They had words in there, might be, maybe, and all that, and I see they've changed it to areas reserved for it. So does that mean it will go in, or if they don't have enough, it won't go in, or how do we look at that?
Councilor Stanek, so those are where the applicant has proposed to restrict them to 55 and older, period.
Oh, okay.
If council wants to add a very specific condition of approval that states that as such, then you're more than welcome to do that. Just
But
to give you some.
you're satisfied that it will be 55 plus then?
Yes,
Under
based
the
upon
current
what
wording?
we've heard and discussed and what they've included in their CCNRs, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Register?
I did think of some other questions, probably for Haley. Do you know, so if that well is being used for the entire zone, then the temporary well that, I think it was a temporary well that Element Ridge had, they won't need that anymore, and so they can rely on this well?
Councilwoman Register, the Element Ridge is building or has granting property for a tank for storage of water, so there will not be a well on Element Ridge. The storage tank will be servicing Zone 2 to equalize pressures. The well here at Verbena Ranch will be a permanent well, and they recognize that until that well is constructed, we can't add more homes into our infrastructure. So that well will be completed before any of these homes come online.
So just so I'm clear, because I just want to make sure I understand it. With Element Ridge, I know one of the concerns was them not having water. Or that was one of the concerns, actually, I think Councilor Allgood brought up, who I think is just going back in, was the concern about water there. So we had asked Element Ridge if they would be
This zone, right now we are looking at 3 locations. So if this is the first location for the well to be constructed, which based off of the expedience of the developer, I expect that it will be, this well will serve Element Ridge.
Okay, so this well will serve Element Ridge, but if this doesn't pass, then Element Ridge is still on their own with however they're getting water there.
That is correct. We wrote in our staff report, and as we've been writing in all staff reports for this area, that we cannot have a new home come online until we add water to the infrastructure. So Element Ridge, until a well, whether it's this one or at one of the other locations, Element Ridge will not be able to build homes until a well is constructed.
Okay. They had just said they were not going to be relying on this, but it sounds like maybe they have to be, one way or another, or on somebody. And then the other question that I had was, when we were kind of doing some research, and I was sent an article about, I guess this property was initially owned by the state and College of Idaho. It was given to College of Idaho, and they did they were using it as areas where they were doing research, and then they sold it to Corey Barton, and looks like, and then he walked away from it in 2021, and from what I could tell from the article that I read, he paid, I think it was like $500,000 deposit, and he walked away from it and then had to pay $100,000 in fines. That's what the article said. So my question, I guess for anybody, is do we know why he never disclosed why he walked away from it? So when somebody is willing to walk away from $600,000, it poses a question as to, is there something wrong with the property, right? So do you know if there's been any environmental testing on this area, or anything that we might run into that could be a problem for the surrounding areas, that maybe he found when he was doing his research, and that's why he was okay getting out of it? Or do we know anything at all?
It would be very typical for a developer to complete a phase 1 environmental study. When I was on the private sector, this study was required for any type of mortgage or lending that you're requiring. So I think this would be a good question to follow up with the applicant, that a phase 1 environmental would have needed to be done on this property. Similarly, a geotechnical report.
Sorry, just, do you know if the city has one from when Mr. Barton owned it?
I wouldn't believe so. This isn't something that we require. This isn't a required application submittal, so we typically wouldn't have a phase 1. But when the environmental engineer completes the study, there's probably some type of a database where they can determine what previous studies have been done on a property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Very good. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, so we'll get into the testimony portion of this hearing. And so just before we do get into that, just a reminder of the timing for the testimony, that the applicant is afforded 10 minutes for his or her presentation, and then all others signed up, whether in favor, neutral, or in opposition, are allowed 3 minutes for their testimony. And we do have a number of people signed up, so I would ask for you to please respect the 10 minutes for the applicant, and then all others that are testifying, whether in favor, neutral, and opposition, to respect the 3 minutes. As mentioned, it'll be up here on the clock behind us, and then there's also a clock there that we're able to see, so please do keep an eye on that and refrain from going over. When we do get to that time, you will hear a beep or an alarm go off from our IT staff. We appreciate that, and then we'll allow you to just wrap up whatever. If you haven't finished by then, wrap up the last sentence that you have there, and we'll move into questions at that point. So with that, Jeff Bauer is signed up as the applicant, so you will have, again, 10 minutes as the applicant to present your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff Bauer, 601 West Bannock, here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Toll Brothers. With me from Toll tonight is the Director of Land Development, Martin Taylor. We also have our engineering team, both civil and traffic, from Kittleson and Associates. So if there are any questions I can't answer, please call on those experts to do so. Going to try to be brief as well, like Joe did. We've been here before, but this is a new hearing, so we want to make sure we cover everything at least a little bit. We are here for the second time. We were denied 4-2 in January. We sought reconsideration, and that was approved. Subsequent to the reconsideration, we have implemented many of the comments that we heard from the council as to lot size, age restriction, buffering, things like that. We have read the staff report in detail and all of the conditions of approval that are recommended by staff, and we are in full agreement with all of those conditions. There were quite a few questions that just came up because I only have 10 minutes, I want to answer those. So I'm going a little bit out of order here, but impact fees, as it stands today, we have 3 different types of housing in this project. We have multifamily, single-family, unage restricted, and single-family age restricted. Those all have a slightly different impact fee for traffic, but in total, we think the project would generate about $2.5 million worth of impact fees. Stoplight timing mentioned by engineering staff was absolutely correct. Both the stoplight at 10th and Homedale, as well as the widening of Homedale from Moss up north to Homedale, that will all be part of the first phase 1. We have age restricted all of the planning areas west of 10th. Before we were talking about age targeting, that was kind of the term of art. Now it's age restricted, and that does mitigate the impacts of the community on multiple fronts. School doesn't generate the school capacity issues, also much lower traffic demand. The well situation was described perfectly. I won't reiterate that, but if there are questions, we're happy to answer those. We're basically designing and constructing to give to the city for a regional Zone 3 improvement. And as it relates to the questions for the Corey Barton issue, so I followed that pretty closely. The state of Idaho did own this property. When they dispose of property, they have to auction it at a public auction. Mr. Barton was number 1 at that auction. My client, Toll Brothers, was number 2. He never actually got into due diligence. He just walked away from that, and then we were in the second place position and took it over. I don't know what he did in terms of due diligence. We're at 2 years now of diligence on this project. Lots of engineering. We have a phase 1. No issues that would otherwise cause us any pause from a development standpoint. Okay, again, property, we all know where it is, 282 acres. We are in the area of impact. We are contiguous on 3 sides, north, east, and south. Since I was here last, Element Ridge was approved, so we have additional contiguity at this point. You know, I'm not going to call this an infill site yet, but we are surrounded by residential projects on all sides at this point, with Chickasaw to our west. Real quick, comp plan and zoning. We are in the low-density residential designation in the comp plan, and we are asking for R1 zoning, which is appropriate in that zone. The zoning we're asking for is also compatible with the surroundings. If you look at the residential projects that we are abutting, they're mostly all R1, although we do have some R2 in the Arrowleaf project that's just to our east. Here is the overall community. Again, as planning staff mentioned, we are asking for a PUD on this, and the concept here behind this PUD is mostly smaller lot sizes to cluster development to increase open space. We have altered this plan so that there is no lot smaller than 5,000 square feet. In doing so, we did lose 20 lots, so you'll see that on the screen. We went from 1039 to 1019. Density is down just a bit, 0.08 to 3.6 units per acre, and 45 acres of total open space. We are doing 6 plats, and again, those relate to the planning areas. Real quickly, I know we went over this, but so on the west side, it's all age restricted at this point. The red zone and the kind of teal zone, those are both the single family age restricted. The yellow is the Heights planning area. That's the cottage court style, so slightly smaller, multiple homes served off a shared driveway. Those planning areas will all be proposed for private roads with gates due to the age restriction. On the east side of 10th, we have the market rate single family planning areas. That's the reserve in the northeast corner, trails shown in purple, and then our multifamily fourplex down in the corner at the southeast. We're calling that the Heights. There was some questions about timing. We are very anxious to get this project started. We have done a significant amount of off-site engineering. We expect pending approval to start construction this year with full build-out hopefully in 2032, 2033. With the minor amendments, losing some lots and making some lots slightly larger, we have very slightly increased open space. This is our new open space map. Total open space percentage is 16.11%. That's over the 10% that's required for PUDs. And just as some context, the Element Ridge project that Councilmember Register spoke about moments ago, it was 3 units per acre, so it basically maxed out the R1 density. It only provided about 7.8% open space, so we're almost double open space. We do have 15 amenity areas, again, ponds, parks, multiple pools, clubhouses. Toll is known for first-class, best-in-class amenities. This will be no exception. Wanted to highlight a couple other communities in the area. One of our age-targeted, age-restricted communities in Star called Milestone Ranch. That's the clubhouse from Milestone. You'll see in the in the lower left corner there. And then the Oaks community in Meridian, a market community, that's their pool in the upper right. So again, this project will have best-in-class amenities and many of them equally dispersed throughout the community and in each planning area. Trails were mentioned briefly. We will be constructing over 5 miles of detached trails. That's in addition to all the detached sidewalks. Planning staff did highlight one, that's the 10-foot regional pathway that will take basically connectivity from Mallard Park all the way up to Valley View. We're doing our segment of that. That's shown in green on this slide, but also lots of other 8-foot wide landscaped pathways throughout the community. Transportation improvements are significant for this project. We're anticipating all of these improvements will be roughly $9 million to the developer. We've talked about the signal at 10th and Homedale. 10th Avenue, which runs right down the middle of this project, will be widened and improved with detached sidewalks as well. And then we'll be doing about 1.5 miles of just brand new roadways. So these are mid-mile collectors. We got Bear Lane on our western property. That's a half-mile of new mid-mile collector. And then Moss from Montana to Bear. That's a mile of new collector. Timing, we already talked about. Those key improvements that will help mobility on 10th will be in place before any residents are in the community. This is a rendering of future 10th Avenue. We're basically at the intersection of Homedale. You see our 2 ponds that are the amenity areas, and we're looking south down towards Karcher. Regional well site's been discussed extensively. This is a quick figure to point out where we're doing, where we anticipate the well to be. It'll be in the northwestmost corner of the project, right there at the intersection of Homedale and Moss. One more regional improvement I want to highlight that we're doing is the Kimball trunk line. So this is a major sewer infrastructure project that brings sewer from the north at Laster all the way down to Homedale, opens up gravity irrigation, gravity sewer for everything that's west of 10th. So again, a large infrastructure offsite project. Dimensional standards have been discussed. Again, for our PUD, we're asking for some deviations in lot sizes. Again, this is to provide more open space and cluster density to fulfill the city's housing goals and to create a product that's in high demand. Here is a map of our private gated streets. Planning staff covered those well. They will be paid for and maintained by the HOA. They meet all of the city standards for width and design. And lastly, a bit in the weeds here, but we are asking for your approval tonight to waive an off-site parking standard you have in your code. For PUDs, when you have lots that are 45 feet wide or less, the code asks for 1 parking spot for every 4 lots like that.
Go ahead and just wrap with that
Yep.
last sentence. I'm sure we'll get into some
Yeah,
questions.
we think we have more than enough parking. We have 4 off-site spaces for each unit. So if you would prefer, we take a condition that basically specifies that. Staff's proposed the language on the slide. Each single-family lot shall provide a minimum 2-car garage and 2-car driveway. That way we won't need those off-site parking areas. And with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions, and we're asking for your approval tonight.
Thank you so much. And I do not see any questions.
Let me
Oh,
get
there we go.
one real-
Counselor Allgood.
Yeah, Jeff, I saw on your layout that your phases are kind of mixed all over the place. You're doing phase 1 here, phase 1 there. I haven't seen that before. I was just kind of wondering what you were, yes, exactly, what the thought is behind that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Wagner, Councilmember Allgood. I think the phases are pretty straightforward on the east side of 10th. They basically kind of march over from our primary accesses, which is pretty normal, right? You have your phase 1 close to the access, and you kind of go from there. On the west side, it is a little trickier. To enhance mobility for this project, we have pretty limited access. If you're looking at, each section of that block is half a mile. So we have no accesses on Moss. That was at engineering staff's recommendation. We have no accesses on Homedale, and we have 1 access on Bear. So the reason our phasing is a little funky there is so that we meet fire code and standards, so that as we're developing each planning area, those phases are coming online so that we're providing secondary access essentially.
Okay.
That's the long-winded answer, but yeah, we kind of had to engineer those with fire to make sure that worked.
Yeah, it's different than what I've seen before. I was curious what the thinking was makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any other questions at this time, so.
All right,
so
thank
much.
you all for your time.
Appreciate that. Okay, so we'll get into those signed up in opposition. So first is Sue Cushland. So if you could please come forward, Sue, and then if you could state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony as well. So you listen for that beep that we just heard a minute ago, and then just if you haven't finished, just go ahead and wrap up your last sentence on that, and then we'll go into questions. So
Sue
yours.
Cushlan, 121 South Louisiana, Caldwell. I'm reading this statement from Ron Dillon, who is stuck in in Utah with car problems. So these are his words, not mine. I'm the messenger. Don't kill me. This is likely the last time that you will see us in a public meeting in Caldwell for a while. For 2 of the council members, these words do not apply to you, and you are excused. The time for talking with the rest of you will be over in a few minutes. We want to sincerely thank you for forcing us to become far smarter, better educated, and more aware citizens. Until we faced you, we knew very little about impact fees or zoning variances or Idaho code pertaining to such things, or how other cities and states handle them. We have done our research and talked with a lot of people, and we are far more enlightened than you realize. We know that tonight you will pass the ill-fated Verbena Ranch abomination of over 1,000 houses. P&Z wisely turned it down because it was too big. It will likely harm the water table in that part of the region, and it will create a nightmare traffic situation. Despite all that and the well-founded objections of thousands of residents, you will pass it anyway. As the developers dazzle you with glorious visions of pickleball courts and walkways and offer Valley View schools a pitiful $500 per house, but only to those houses not targeted to seniors. You are not a crime family, but we know that your campaign contributions come with companies like Corey Barton Homes and Brighton Homes and numerous realty associations and, of course, Toll Brothers, an out-of-state monolithic corporation with a net worth of $13.4 billion that places them 411th on the Fortune 500 list. They are making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on our backs, and now we know why they come here. It's because our leaders are too short-sighted to change proper impact fees, especially when it comes to supporting our schools. We know that you desperately need their money because of poor, short-sighted planning, and now you are in big trouble because you are going to have to dip into the 2026 city budget to cover 2025. Your only option is to approve everything and hope that you can cover the bills. Typically, that is called robbing Peter to pay Paul or running a Ponzi scheme, but for most of this group, it's simply business as usual. We want to once again remind you that our schools are dying, and that this is largely due to the ridiculous pace of growth. None of us are against growth, but we are against stupid, ridiculous growth, thousands and thousands of houses, boom, boom, boom. Caldwell High School test scores now put them 131 out of 159 Idaho schools, and once top 10 Valley View has fallen to 89th. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I don't see any. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate that. And I know that you were asked to read that, but just would ask for all those that will follow to avoid any accusations in regards to your testimony, in regards to whether it's a single member or the whole member of the council that sit up here, and to just stick to the facts of the case and of your testimony, but to avoid again any accusations of that sort. So with that, we'll move forward to the next person signed up is, I believe it's Amity Wilson. Very good. So if you could just state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes as well.
Amity Wilson, 11789 Lawrence Drive in Caldwell. I am continuing Ron Dillon's statement. So we would already have enough signature on the recall petitions if the thousands of enraged citizens that live
Mr. Mayor,
just outside.
are we gonna stick to the facts of the case we're discussing, or are we gonna talk about the recall?
Yeah, so yes, please avoid any, I know that you're reading a letter from the gentleman that had provided, but again, stick to the facts of the case and avoid other items
Okay,
or
so
accusations.
I guess I'll paraphrase here. If the thousands of enraged citizens that live just outside of city limits and who are county members could weigh in on any of this, then the outcome of the current efforts would probably be different. So I've paraphrased that. So county members are getting killed with endless school bonds caused by the pace of growth. You seem eager to make our community a replica of California, yet San Diego imposes on developers an impact fee of $5.71 per square foot to go to schools, while there is, here in Idaho, they pay $0. Soon Valley View will have to build another high school at the cost of $100 million, burdening Valley View School District property owners with another $100 million check to cash that you wrote. Just because they cannot vote for you, they don't matter. We are tired of hearing, and I will paraphrase this. We are tired of hearing that we can't stop growth. There's nothing we can do, we follow state law. That is an outright lie. There are a number of ways that you could stop or slow down this out of control and irresponsible expansion. You could follow Middleton's lead and pass a school protection ordinance that stops the city from issuing new building permits whenever the school district hits 110% of its capacity. One of the local builders associations attempted to squash that in Middleton and was not successful because it is perfectly legal. Caldwell could absolutely do this, but they will not. David Murray, who was instrumental in getting that passed in Middleton, has offered to come and talk to you about this, and you won't put him on the agenda. Because lying to the constituents about what is possible better fits your agenda than admitting that you can indeed turn down a developer.
And again, we'd ask to avoid the accusations on that, in that regards.
You have some very intelligent people on your planning and zoning board. And recently, at a dinner, they stated that Idaho law absolutely does give cities and counties the right to deny projects if they will detrimentally affect schools, water, transportation, EMS, and so on. These matters can be seen in Idaho Code 67-6 5513, and also under sections 501301 through 501329.
Very good, thank you. And I appreciate you paraphrasing those other areas, and listen, thank you so much for that. And I did not see any questions. Jim Hollis. So again, if you would just state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony.
Jim Hollis, 1722 Carroll Avenue. I again are filling in for Ron on part 3. That is why Caldwell Planning and Zoning, a group that is far more...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd also point out just that Mr. Dillon's had now 3 opportunities through proxies to give his statement, so...
Okay, I have a statement, I'll give it myself.
Okay, so yes, so if you could stick to it for you,
Okay,
Mr. Hollis.
this
thank
is
you.
my statement then, make everybody happy. That is why Caldwell Planning and Zoning, a group that is far more educated in growth than a mere mayor and city council, have
Mr. Mayor?
denied
Yes.
a number
I'd like
of
to intervene.
Hold on one
developments
second,
lately.
Mr. Hollis, if you could
That's
just hold
clearly
on
not
one second.
Mr. Hollis's statement. He said it's Ron Dillon's statement, and so I would advise to go with the city attorney's recommendation.
Very good. So yes, on that, if you could make sure that, again, we are asking for your statement.
This is
not
my
the-
statement.
So your.
I take responsibility for what I'm reading.
Okay.
Continue?
Yes, you can continue with, again, your statement as you stated.
This is why Caldwell Planning and Zoning, a group that is far more educated in growth than the mere mayor and city council, have denied a number of developments lately. Of course, planning and zoning, even though they are the experts, are seen as hindrance and just a set of traffic cones to swerve around, and virtually every project is then appealed to the city council for guaranteed approval. You have proven over and over that you won't listen to your citizens or your planning and zoning board, nor will you consider any of the wise and profound words and wisdom that were recently presented by Canyon County Clerk Rick Hogaboom has to say, describing the serious consequences that come with rapid and reckless growth. For months, Mr. Hogaboom has been warning you repeatedly about the reckless path that the city is on. For governing boards are exercising statutory authority for mitigation on the ability of all affected districts in providing services when approving growth. When school districts are there, say they're full, when the fire district can't staff new stations, when the ambulance district can't keep up, when the jail is at limited to capacity, and water pressure in wells is dropping, you'd think that we'd have a land use decisions that don't compromise quality of service, delivery to current residents, even while imposing substantial additional costs upon us. When growth requires additional multi-million-dollar capital projects that must now be financed by the current residents that otherwise wouldn't have needed if the growth didn't occur or if actual mitigation fees were exercised, it becomes obvious that growth is creating a net liability on cost of services. Thank you for showing us who you really are. You have proven that you do not care about schools, water, traffic, the taxpayers, etc. We have switched off forever and will continue our efforts to gather what we have already started. From now on, and instead of wasting our time attending these council meetings with the 4-2 decisions, we will be outside spending our time wisely, gaining more signatures. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you for your statement, Mr. Hollis. Next is Larry, and I believe it's Stevenson. So, very good. Larry, if you please come forward, and again, if you could just state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes as well for your testimony.
Larry Stevenson, 15769 Yoder Avenue in Caldwell. Been a resident here for, thank you, 50 years. So I'm glad to see that we have some age and experience on the board. That provides wisdom. Wisdom is a hard one to come by because we usually learn that from experience. So if we learn from Ada County, when they started doing all the urban sprawl, they couldn't keep up with services. It ended up in a major shutdown, complete, no construction. Schools couldn't keep up, safety, the police, fire couldn't keep up. I know previous testimony, and I'll speak to that probably tonight. The fire department probably needs 2 more stations, and that'll come in time. But the problem we have here, I used to sell insurance with Hartwell Corporation here in Caldwell. And when police can't, or fire can't keep up, police is not a problem. Homeowners insurance is all about response time. And if you, and the insurance companies look at this all the time, what's the response time of this fire department? And if it goes down, good. If it goes up, that's bad. You can change a protection class by just 1 number. I did an insurance package for Idaho Concrete out here. The insurance company had quoted them wrong. They were a lower protection class by one. I saved them $10,000 in premium. So this is a major decision, because if we can't keep our fire department up, our police and that, infrastructure is going to create consequential inflation. I mean, for everybody in this zone. So that being said, traffic never keeps up. It's always last on the totem pole. So what affects response time? Congestion, traffic. So that's a double-edged sword right there. So, you know, the applicant has agreed to some, you know, improvements or widening of 10th. Probably needs to go clear to Karcher to get some people exiting and entering and all that stuff. But I'm very disappointed. I know Toll Brothers has been very cooperative for the city. That's because you're making the decision. They've been unresponsive to Valley View School District. I met with those officials the other day, and they've been trying to negotiate with Toll Brothers for over a year. They wanted a $1,000 contribution. I don't call it a donation, but a contribution for impact fees. They wouldn't do it. So that being said, they've come around and agreed to maybe 500. I don't welcome people like the Cutthroat, our taxing districts that are trying to provide infrastructure. So that being said, they didn't want to do the 55 and over.
Yeah, go ahead and wrap up that last sentence.
So anyway, in conclusion, because of this is a major project, you know, Toll Brothers does this all over the country. A thousand residential project for them is nothing. For us, it's a big deal. So if we want to grow smart, which is hard to define other than you slow down and be cautious, because we don't know here in this board tonight, I can't tell you either, the negative impacts financially that this could have to our community. So we want to move slowly and cautiously. If we decide that we're obligated to approve this project, I would like to see a 15-year period and let infrastructure catch up. Make it 4 or 5 phases, 15 years period. That way, infrastructure can collect the revenue, get some infrastructure in place, fire stations, schools, and that.
Perfect, thank you so much.
I stand for questions.
Any questions from council? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. Okay, next on the list is Jean Kreidbring. If you could again state your name and address, and then you'll have your 3 minutes as well.
Good evening, Jean Kreidbring. I am opposed to Verbena Ranch. I realize I'm probably flapping my gums, especially with the budget woes. Verbena Ranch is proposing 1,019 dwelling units. With 1 to 2 cars per unit, that's an additional 1,500 to 2,000 vehicles dumping onto 10th Street or Montana and probably Karcher. And as a side note from what I had prepared, as a 65-year-old, the presentation said there would be less traffic with the 55-plus community. Really? Both my husband, who is older, and I drive 2 separate vehicles. In looking at page 267 in your packet, within a 1-mile radius, there have been 2,374 approved dwellings. Some are currently being built. That means in the small area, a total of over 5,000 vehicles will be added to the surrounding streets and most likely Karcher. This is concerning. And what about the schools, fire, and police? How is this decision going to affect services? On page 274, it details that they are proposing smaller lot sizes than required. In addition, many of the setbacks are less than the required amount. And on page 277, it details that the 4-family dwelling units is not permitted in an R1 zone. Also on page 278 is the parking concern. Parking is a huge issue with past approvals, so why would you continue this trend? For all of the above issues, I am asking you again to not approve this particular development. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being to the point, Jean. Next is Robert Lewis Haggard. So if you could state your name and address for the record as well, and then you'll have 3 minutes for your time.
Robert Haggard,
909 Coolwater Court, Caldwell. The notification process, and I heard here that there was very few complaints and no impact on the local or the residents in the area. That is entirely false. My home is in just north of Homedale. There are probably only 10 homes that were notified of this in 2 large subdivisions. Therefore, most people in the area don't know the impacts and can't comment because they don't know what's going on. There is no mention of improvements of Homedale or Montana, both of which need to be widened and maintained with sidewalks and improved lighting. The signal on 10th and Homedale was said that, or I heard that that was going to be before construction. But then I heard in the same testimony that the signal was, or the slides said it was before occupancy. That's quite a difference in impact. Montana and Homedale, there needs to be a signal or roundabout. Signal would probably be better because of the location of the high school. I would recommend that the city consider a requirement that all homes be sold to and individual sites in the multi-unit areas only be sold to individuals and not to large-scale investors that will be unable to have renters that maintain the properties well. Let's see. Oh, irrigation is a problem with water pressure in the area north of Homedale, and also water pressure in our home is minimal because we're up on the high end of the area and we don't get water sufficient to do a lot of things. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, also, I believe that no construction or activity should be taken until the improvements on 55 or Crutcher are completed, because it's just going to be a whole mess from there. We're going to be backed up for miles because we're not going to be able to get out of our subdivisions and into areas. There's also, it doesn't seem to be any plans for the city to have businesses in this area.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So is there any questions? I don't see any. Okay, thank you. And just, it appears that our timer's working there, but not on our clock, so we apologize. So what we'll do is, Eddie, if you don't mind, just maybe give me like a head nod or a little wave like that when there's 30 seconds left. And that way I'll let you know whoever's testifying, so you know you got 30 seconds since it's not up there. So we do apologize for that. Tom Blaisdell. So if you could state your name and address, and then again, you'll have 3 minutes, and I'll let you know when you got 30
Thank you.
seconds left.
Tom Blaisdell, 3611 South 10th Avenue. Most of the questions that I had been answered. My biggest concern, they mentioned the light at 10th and Homedale, but if any of you have had to pick up kids at Valley View High School recently, maybe none of you have, Montana and Homedale really needs to be addressed, especially with something this large. It just gets backed up. It's very unsafe. I mean, I've got teenagers that are driving across. Luckily, 10th and Homedale will be that'll be mitigated, but just waiting at that four-way stop just gets really backed up. And my other question is, if you could ask them, because you'll have the power to do that, is about the regional well. How is that going to function with all the other residents that are around there? And are they at risk of having to re-drill their wells because they need the water for the regional well? And how does that piggyback on the other 215 units that you already approved? So, 1,250 units in that area, that's quite a few. And I think, the water and the regional well needs to be answered to make sure the other residents aren't having to pump or re-drill their wells. So that would be my concerns. The other ones they answered very well, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Hold on, Tom, there might be a question. Councilor Rooms, did you have a
Thank
question?
you. It's more for staff, if I could,
Okay.
because I think that's important. And maybe Haley could explain the different depths of well between what the city drills and what private wells drill. And are we in the same aquifer as a home that would be in the area?
Councilman Williams and other council members, thank you for the question. The well that would be drilled for the municipal system is going to be several hundred feet deep. It will be in a completely different aquifer than a standard home. Standard home wells can vary. I know some people who have a well that's as shallow as 15, 20 feet deep. My personal well is 80 feet deep. And even my 80-foot well is not going to be anywhere near the same aquifer system that a municipal well would be in.
I think that'd be good information for all of you to have, so. That's what I had to say, so. I think those need to be considered before you approve in this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom, appreciate it. Next signed up to testify is Albert Godoy. So if you could just state your name and address for the record, then you'll have 3 minutes, and again, when it's 30 seconds, we'll give you a heads up.
Keep an eye on him or on you?
He'll notify me, well, both, if you see him, great, if not, I'll let you know as well.
All
So,
right.
yep.
My name is Alberto Godoy, 16500 South Montana Avenue here in Caldwell. I had a couple of same questions that my previous guy that was up here, he was mentioning about the well. I have a well right there off Montana, and Homedale. It is drilled at 250 feet. So my question is that as well. Is that going to impact mine if they're doing this community well? If it's the same aquifer, how do we know that? Where are the plans? Where are the specs on that? I've dealt with some of the well companies out there. They tell me we're all in the same aquifer, so I'm not 100% sure how accurate that is. My other question was that I think the councilwoman here mentioned about questions. Why did Corey Botten just bail on $600,000? I am a native. I was born and raised here. I'm familiar with Valley View. I'm familiar with Caldwell. I was actually born in Caldwell Memorial Hospital when it was what it was back then, over 50 years ago. So I work in the banking. I work with developers. I work with a lot of people in the valley. I'm well versed in real estate and how things have to progress, but I also realize, just like the rest of you guys, I'm getting tired of the traffic, the congestion. I noticed that on the plans. It was the first time I saw the plans here, and they're talking about fourplexes. And me, that in the last 30 years doing loans for people in fourplexes, single-family residents in 55 communities and whatnot, I want to look at that in a little more detail before approving something. So, I mean, rather than being rushed through these things, I understand this is a new hearing about it, but I would definitely want a more particular details about it. I'm very detail-oriented. I want to see what the impact is. As part of the community, and the rest of you guys are part of the community, we live here. Toll Brothers doesn't live here. They didn't even present themselves here to even talk about it. They just have other representatives. But as a person that lives here, has roots here, has family here, I would definitely like to see some other folks come in that can answer these type of questions. I mean, I hear a lot of, okay, progress and this and that and the other. What benefit does Caldwell get out of this subdivision? What benefit do we get if we approve such a thing without doing our due diligence? I hear about the engineering, I hear about these other particulars, but what is it that benefits all of us? Congestion doesn't benefit any of us. Why we got to pay the impact fee? That doesn't benefit us if they're coming and making all these developments. I see it here in the valley. I see it all the time. But why are we in a rush rather than take our time?
So 30 more seconds, sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Take our time, study the scenario, I know some of the body language, I can tell people are getting tired of the criticism and this, that, and the other. I'd rather have an open dialogue and say, what is it that impacts our water, our sewer, the traffic? Fort Plexus, I'm gonna tell you, every family has kids. They all want their own cars. So we're thinking 2, you're calculating 2. Turns out to be 4. If you got 4 kids, 5 kids, it's a car per each person. It's just the way it is. It's reality in the state of Idaho and the United States. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. Sue Stover. So if you could also please state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes as well, and we'll do the same. I'll let you know when you got 30 seconds left.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sue Stover, and I live at 15456 Cypress Street, Caldwell. I don't want to rehash all this. I do have a couple of things, questions, concerns, and I was at the last meeting, and it does bother me that it seems to me that the proposals that have come back after the subdivision was told no has not substantially changed. They're actually asking for taller buildings. The staff and everybody acknowledges that they're, 25% less in size, et cetera, and it does concern me that they were told no and came back with actually bigger requests and requirements. And the one thing that also does bother me is now, all of a sudden, they're going to provide the city with a well. My recollection was, I believe that the other subdivision did their testing wells, and they are further to the south and uphill and do not have enough water to fund the 200 and some homes. I'm really concerned how the 1,000 is going to do that. I did just double check with my husband, who is the president of our homeowners association, and he tells me we have 2 wells there. It's our understanding that if one of our wells goes out, we now will be forced to go to the city for water that you guys, the county, won't approve us to dig our wells. Our 2 wells are currently at 270 feet, and the pumps are at 230 and 240. We are directly uphill from that proposed well, so I've got to think we're in the same water aquifer, things run downhill, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. My other thing, I'm trying to hurry, if you could pull up that map, if someone could pull up that map that shows the 2 subdivisions and then our community subdivision there at Karcher Road. I didn't realize until this evening that the phase subdivision going in, the accesses are going to be only on 10th, only on the new proposed Bear Lane, not on Moss Street. I want you to understand how people are going to get from Karcher Road then to Bear Lane. If you guys approve this, Bear Lane will come down and tie into what is presently Airport in our little tiny subdivision. There is absolutely no way that all of those homes, they're going to have to access Bear Lane by coming through our little country subdivision. The first part of it is 2 blocks long, makes a 90-degree turn in front of my house, goes 2 houses, and makes a blind 90-degree turn to then go on to Airport, which will feed all 1,200 homes. And there's absolutely no way that you can pass 2 cars on that street right now, and I have no idea where 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 cars a day are going to be able to access that west side of Bear Lane that's going to go all the way down to Homedale. It's just absolutely impossible.
Go ahead. So you can take another 30
And
seconds.
you guys are going to allow them to maintain this subdivision with private roads and gates and stuff, but our subdivision is made up of the same demographics of a lot of us over 55, and we're not being given the same considerations in order to make the city better and the developers better, but it's all coming at our expense.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate you being here. So that is all that it's indicated to testify. Just so you're aware, there are some that signed up in opposition not to speak. There was Lane Hadlock, I think it's Cowboy Calvin, Lene Van Velen, I believe, Brad Carrico, Dan Diaz, and Adela, I believe it's Volcon, had also signed up in opposition, just so that the council is aware. Okay, well, that will turn it back over to the applicant for your rebuttal testimony. So if you could keep that I know there's a lot of info in there. I don't think we're able to queue it up for 5 minutes, are we? So So we'll put it up for 3 minutes if you can get through it, and just know, I'm sure there's a lot of questions that have been written down by council that we'll be able to address all of those things if we're not able to touch on it. Before we do actually start on that, I know there were some questions about the wells that were deeper on that. Haley, do you mind maybe just touching on that? Because I feel that'll be a question about commingling and how the city avoids that with a public well versus a private well. Do you mind just touching on that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for giving me the opportunity. So Idaho DEQ does track all of the wells that are installed in the state of Idaho. In fact, I use their online well log GIS map pretty frequently to see what wells are in the area. So as we continue our due diligence on any well, we always ensure that a new well is not going to interfere with any existing wells and any existing aquifers. So as has been pointed out, there are some deep wells in this area, and so we will go deeper and ensure that we are not tapping into an aquifer that's going to have any impact on citizens.
Very good. And those public wells, I'm guessing, are within full casing to not commingle within the different aquifers, or are they?
That is correct, yes.
So, okay, perfect, excellent, thank you so much. So hopefully that saves you a little bit of stuff you have to get into, and like I said, I'm sure there'll be some questions from council as well. So, again, if you just state your name real quick, and then we'll queue you up for the 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Jeff Bauer, 601 West Bannock. There were a lot of comments. Instead of going through one by one, I'm gonna kind of try to address the concepts. A lot of what I heard is, it's too big, what do we get? This isn't good for us. And I want to address it's too big first, and we talked about this some in January. It's very rare in a municipal area of impact that you find a developer with 280 acres that they're master planning. A lot of times you'll get 50 here, 80 there, maybe 100 here. And what happens with those smaller projects is you don't get regional infrastructure up front. You get impact fees or maybe a turn lane, and you kind of are death by 1,000 cuts. This is a project, it is large, I can't argue otherwise, but we are mitigating our impacts and we're doing it up front. So there are some questions about timing on the light. Our commitment is to have that light installed and functional before any occupancy permits in any phase. So yes, there will be construction traffic, horizontal construction, but no resident traffic. What do we get? That's kind of this other concept. So we've been following all of the discussions about the comprehensive plan update recently adopted. You have a new section, Chapter 6, Neighborhoods. The feedback that you got from your constituents as it relates to residential communities, the two most important things: housing variety, affordability, and walkable amenities. So those are what your residents, not just the people here that are commenting against the project, that's what the community as a whole wants. They want a mix of housing types, so floorplexes, age-restricted, smaller lots, larger lots, and they also want those walkable amenities. So we've been tracking you. That's why we brought this project to you, and staff early on in this project said, make sure you bring the council a mix of housing types, because that's what they want, and so that's what we did. Again, a lot of details, happy to answer questions, but we have all agencies that have commented on this project, fire, schools, roads, ITD, etc., all are in favor, or we've addressed their specific comments. There are no outstanding issues with any agencies as it relates to this project. I'll stand for any questions. I think I covered the big pictures.
Perfect, thank you so much,
Yeah.
appreciate that. Questions from council? I do not see any green lights. I expect this, so I didn't come up with any of my own, so sounds like there's no questions at this time, so.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
On that, so just, I know that we are at the moment to close public testimony, but just to ensure, once that is closed, the applicant is unavailable for questions, or staff obviously is, in that regard, so just to ensure that council does not have any questions of the applicant's representative before we do close public testimony. And if not, then I stand for a motion to do so. And a second?
Second.
That's a motion from Counselor Williams and a second from Counselor Register to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. So with that, it moves it to the council for your discussion, deliberation, and again, any questions for staff is always available. Counselor Williams.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. These are not as easy as I think it may appear. And yet, I'm thankful for the work that staff has put into it and for the way that you have helped get us into a position where we perhaps understand a little differently than we did in January. I do think it's unique that we have one developer developing 282 acres. This isn't an infill technically, and yet, short of doing what we heard at our 5 o'clock workshop and building multi-use housing that's 4 stories and commercial and retail and everything else in there, we would end up with 4 or 5 developers piecemealing something in there rather than a community that I think is really going to advance something of a property that's within the city limits. I would prefer to avoid moving out to Farmway and our area of impact and moving into places beyond the city limits currently. And so this is an interesting proposition to me. I know there's a lot of concern about growth paying for itself, and our new impact fees are expediting that. I think it's interesting what the Nampa chief financial officer said, that even if the city stopped approving new development, it would continue to face rising costs and inflation, and you can shut out development today, but my costs are going to go up tomorrow. To simply say no to a development doesn't solve our problem in how to mitigate the expenses of our growing city that continues to see needs here. I say again, we heard this. It was, as I recall, a confusing conversation in some senses when the votes were taken, and yet in the end it was denied, but with the requirement of giving remedial possibilities. And we did that, and this developer has come back and has met all of those requirements we gave them. Rather than moving the goalposts again and creating a situation where every time that developer comes back, we have more objections and more requirements, I would prefer to see us accept that our concerns have been met. This developer is bringing a product to us that I think is needed. And so before we continue with council discussion, I'd like to make a motion, if I could, based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the Caldwell City Council hereby approves the request for annexation, zoning, and a PUD with 6 preliminary plats for Verbena Ranch, subject to the conditions as outlined within the staff report, as well as the recommended 2-car garage and 2 parking spots in the driveway that is recommended by staff. I think that's covered anyway.
Second. Very good. So that is a motion from Councilor Williams with a second from Councilor Denber for approval of the request as was detailed with those additional conditions that was outlined by staff in the staff report. So before we do get to a motion, I did note that there was at least 2, I imagine we'll have a couple others. So Councilor Stott, did you want to, I know your light was on earlier, Councilor Register.
Oh, I think I was last.
No, I just turned mine on.
Just turn it
You're
on.
good to
Oh,
go.
okay. So I had a couple of things. Let me find I have a lot of notes, so give me just a second. I like the amenities on this. I like the age restriction. I think it looks really nice. I appreciate all the extras, all the stuff that you're willing to do. But what it comes down to for me is everything that we heard in the comments. We cannot sustain what's needed for this development. Schools, I did just kind of a quick little calculation, but even if a third of these houses have 2 kids that go to school, we're coming up with 700 kids or more with this subdivision alone, over 1,000 with the Element Ridge one that was just approved over there. And we have this Valley View that I've heard has said that they're good until like 2029. So if you get done building in 2032 or whatever it is that you said you were going to do, that we're not going to have the schools. We will not have it. They might have room right now, but we also learned not long ago that we're looking at 10,000 doors, which is 30,000 people, and how many kids are in there, and all of that kind of stuff. So you have to take those things into consideration, as well as if we look at national standards for things like police, and even if we have enough police officers, which I think is 1 for every 1,000 people right now, we still have at least 30,000 people coming in however many years, which means 30 more cops, which means however many cops we need to hire for you. So those impact fees are great, but they don't sustain anything. They're one time. So it's not like you're going to pay this cop's salary or pay for whatever comes next. It's a one-time fee, and then the city has to take it over. So that's concerning for me as well. Now, especially since we just had some budget talks and we're finding ourselves over budget in departments, including public safety. The other thing that really concerns me is that there's a bond coming up right now for medics. And the reason why is because they can't keep up with the growth either. So what's ending up happening is the bond on the school, the bond on the medics, the taxpayers paying for that. So when we hear growth paying for growth, because now we're getting these impact fees or these traffic mitigation fees, it's not exactly accurate. Even if I like your development and I like parts of it, and I think actually like that there's one builder for all of that area so that it's cohesive throughout, we still can't manage the growth. So it's not really a matter of liking the development or appreciating the amenities or anything like that. It's what are we going to do in 10 years or 5 years or 7 years, like you said, that it's built out and we don't have the schools. We have to do another bond for a school. We have to do another bond for the medics. It all goes on the back of the taxpayer, all of it. So that's where I really feel like we need to pause. So in saying that, I'm going to say again that I wish we had like a cover sheet for each one of these developments where when somebody says, well, what are we receiving in impact fees? It's right there. We know the exact number. We know what the traffic mitigation fee is. And then we know how many cops we have. We know how many we're going to need. And we can look at those numbers and make some really good informed decisions. But right now we're just kind of making decisions on whether or not we like the project. Like, okay, great, we like this well. No, we don't like this. Like it, and that's nothing against you guys as the developer. It's nothing about any staff or anything like that. It's about keeping in mind that the taxpayer has to pick up the brunt of this. Idaho law was brought up, and I have asked that we talk about that and we make policy so that we're not running into these problems. And that has not been scheduled yet. Although I do know that other cities have had workshops about growth and been surprised at how affected they are. And so I would really like to do that here in Caldwell as well. So I really appreciate what you've done. I really do like a lot of it, but I think we have to remember that our community are experts too. So if the community comes in and says, 5 years ago it took me 10 minutes to drive from point A to point B, and now it's taking me 20 minutes or 30 minutes, that's a traffic study in my opinion. I think that they know what it takes and how it affects them, and I think that's important. And I think that we should always be putting our current residents before any future ones. And right now, our current residents cannot afford to take on and sustain what this big build will bring. I hope that one day we are, and that something like this can happen. Because again, I do like it, and I realize that someday it probably will happen. But I really think that the city and the council, that we need to get some policies in place, do some research, make sure we know where our infrastructure is, be 100%, so that way when we make decisions, we're doing it with all the knowledge that I think we need. I just don't feel like the current residents should have to pay for anything future. And until we have those numbers and all that stuff, I think we don't know what we're putting on the backs of them, other than I think it's irresponsible to do something like this, especially while we have a bond in progress for community services. So, thank you.
Good, thank you. Councilor Allgood.
I had a couple questions for staff. Is that still appropriate?
Yep, oh yes, definitely.
So, Joe, I was reading page 279 on the parking, and I understand in Councilor Williams' motion, he addressed one part of the parking, but the second part talked about lacking 26 parking spaces for the fourplexes. Has that been resolved, or is that still something we need to address?
Councilor Allgood, Mayor, Council, that is already a condition of approval that they'll have to modify their site plan to accommodate that. So it's technically already part of the staff report.
Okay, so we have a resolution to that?
Yes, sir.
That 26, okay. And then, Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Haley. It was also brought up, the intersection of Montana and Homedale, there at Valley View School. Do you have any timelines for the improvement of that intersection, or do we have any understanding of what may happen there?
That intersection is not currently in our capital improvement plan, which is the plan that'll be in the next 5 years. However, we do have that intersection programmed for a single lane roundabout in our Caldwell Area Transportation System plan. So though it's not programmed in the next 5 years, we do still have it programmed in our long-term planning. But our CIP can change. We do reevaluate our CIP as we see growth.
Okay, thank you. And then I just had a comment. I struggle with this because we get a lot of accusations and heated comments about what we're thinking. And it's like, I don't know what's a yes and what's a no, because last council meeting, we had a subdivision come in at Ustick and Farmway. Well over 100 houses. I don't remember the number of houses we had, and it was a unanimous yes. And so I'm thinking, are we flipping a coin here, saying yes to some, no to some? Or are we saying yes to all of them? It was a unanimous yes. I was kind of surprised that it was, Councilor Register, but it was. It was the, I can't think of the name now. Anyway, it was.
I don't know either.
South of Ustick,
Yep.
east of Farmway.
Yep.
I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, I just want to, for those of you that are out there that are very angry or whatever, or disagree, these decisions are like gut wrenching. These are terrible decisions. These are tough to make. And I can tell you, whether you go one way or the other, everybody that makes the vote has an opinion of what they think is best for Caldwell. And so I'm not berating anybody in any way, but I can tell you that it's not as simple as just trying to decide who's angry or whatever. It's not like that at all. But thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Councilor Stoddard?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to commend the developers too. They've come a long way since the last time we talked to you. But, you know, I'm from a business background, and if, for instance, the numbers that Mr. Hogelboom put out there relative to how can we keep up with essential services, I think really hits the point that we're trying to make here, a few of us at least, as far as long-term and how in the world can we keep up with all infrastructure and everything else. I know in advertising and in business, if you spend, say, $1 million and on advertising, hoping that you get something in within a year, and 6 months down the road, you go broke because you spent too much on advertising. I mean, it just doesn't work for me. I'm a little bit disappointed with the developer on the amount of money you're going to give to the schools, because I talk to Mr. Palmer all the time, and those kind of numbers just don't work for the near or long-term future as far as Valley View. And I live in Valley View District, and I know those bonds and how expensive they are, and I don't want to see another one either, but it'll probably come. The ambulance service, like Councilwoman Register mentioned, that's a good example of not keeping up with infrastructure and services rendered, because we're just not collecting enough money to do it. Short term, it looks great. You know, everybody's happy. The roads are going to be widened for 10th, but if one of the gentlemen, I think he's left already, mentioned 10th Avenue and the high school and the elementary school there, and I travel that all the time, and there's times that when you come off of Karcher there, and when school's out on the elementary, the traffic is actually backed all the way up from Karcher down to Davis, if you know where that street is. And only because I think Idaho Transportation doesn't give a blinking red or amber yellow for people to turn left onto Karcher. And whether Karcher's going to solve that problem, I don't think it will, because it's still directionally, it's not the right thing to do. But again, in the spirit of giving reasons why we vote no or yes, Mr. Lawyer, I think I've probably given enough reasons for that. But again, we need to keep up with service and infrastructure, and these folks have come a long way, but long term, it just doesn't work. So anyway, that's all I have.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Stoddard. Councilor Williams?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a comment, and Ray Lynn couldn't be here tonight, but I want to be clear, we are not over budget. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, and I want to be perfectly clear, we are not over budget.
Thank you very much. So real quick before we do take the vote, I just had a quick comment. And actually, Councilor Stoddard, I appreciated your comments because it actually changed mine a little bit. So, and it was in regards to the Homedale, Montana intersection as well. And I appreciate Mr. Blaisdell. I do see that it looks like he had to leave, but I appreciated bringing that up. I do not have kids that go to Valley View High School. My kids go to Ridgeview, so that's kind of their rivalry. But I do go out to Valley View in regards as mayor, but also with my kids' sporting events. So I understand that intersection very much, and it is a grave concern on that. And so I appreciate the questions on that. So maybe a quick question. I know that you said it's not within the CIP. However, before our impact fees, we had the traffic mitigation fees. So I'm imagining we have that pot of money somewhere. It didn't just disappear when impact fees became available. And I would imagine that this, at least some development sometime, was in the realm of this area where those mitigation fees maybe could go to pay for some improvements at Homedale, Montana, because where I changed my comment from what Councilor Stoddard said was, I was going to say, if this was approved, we definitely need to look at that intersection. But as Councilor Stoddard was talking, I remembered at the elementary school under construction, so that regardless if this gets approved, we need to look at that intersection much sooner than later, and especially if this gets approved, we need to really start looking at improving that intersection to some form of something other than the stop sign there. So, Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I apologize for coming up here. I don't know if you had a specific question, but just so everybody knows, the Homedale corridor is high on our priority. We have done a master study of the entire corridor, and it looks at all of the intersections, not just Montana. And we recognize we already have conceptual designs of what a roundabout would look like at Montana and Homedale, and then the other intersections going down, that would be Florida, Lake, all the way down. And so that is, we're finishing up some projects now. We're trying to get U-Stick wrapped up over the railroad tracks. But our next big push is going to be along the Homedale corridor. That is what we're looking at over the next several years to try to get some of those intersections improved and roadways improved down in that area. There will be, even this year, we're proposing to do some resurfacing of some of Homedale Road, which is in very poor condition, and so it definitely is on our radar.
Oh, very good, excellent. No, I appreciate it, because yeah, like I said, as I was talking, I think that school is going to open this next school year, and if not, I know it's definitely by next one. And now there's going to be a lot of cars going north on Montana on that, so we definitely, I know that's kind of separate from this. We need to really make sure we're looking at that intersection. So Councilor Stoddard, did
Yeah,
you have one last
Mr. Mayor,
comment?
we just want to scam, I appreciate you mentioning the new elementary school there, because again, that compounds the problem with the high school down there on Montana and Homedale also. It just adds to the problem. And regarding our budget, no, we're not over budget, but let me tell you, we've got a lot of serious budget meetings coming up. And right now, we're trying to figure out how we're going to match with the guesstimate of taxpayer money that's going to come in and still provide the services. That's where it's at. And, you know, we need more police officers, we need more fire stations and more firemen, and it's going to be a tough call when we come down to that final number of what we're going to do. But I guarantee you, we won't go on a budget. But again, you talk about services that we really need to give to the taxpayers, whether we can provide the full services that you're due. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, appreciate all the comments in regards to this. I mean, it is a big project, so obviously it deserves a lot of discussion, so do appreciate that in that regard. So again, a motion is on the floor, so we do appreciate that. Motion was from Councilor Williams for approval of the request with the conditions as outlined, as well as the additional condition that was added by staff that is in the staff report regarding the additional parking spaces that did cover those that you had talked about, Councilor August. So that is in the staff report and part of that that motion, which was a second from Councilor Dintber. So with that, we will then go to voting at this time. So voting is currently open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion does pass with 4 in favor and 2 in opposition. So Councilor Stoddard and Councilor Register did vote in opposition of the motion, with the other 4 council members voting in favor. So with that, I would stand for a motion to close this public hearing item. And a second? That's a motion, was that, I think, from Councilor Doty, and a second from Councilor Williams. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And that motion passes. Very good. Thank you again for being here this evening and for your testimony. And that moves us into item, actually, we're going to take a break right now. So, yes, so let's go ahead and do the bill and ordinance. So this is just a housekeeping item after an annexation. So this is item number 7. Do we have a sponsor of bill number 52 and ordinance number 3613?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll sponsor bill number 52, ordinance number 3613, with request to move for its passage by title only and approve the summary for publication.
Very good. Do we have a second? Motion from Councilor Dittenber and a second from Councilor Williams. All those in, it's actually, we do need a vote on the thing. I apologize. So with that, voting is open at this time. So, and I'd ask please to refrain from comments as you leave. Thank you for being here, though. So that all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes the same as the prior with 4 in favor, 2 in opposition, but Councilor Stoddard and Councilor Register voting in the negative. With that, we are going to go ahead and take a recess, take a quick break, and we'll be back in 10 minutes to finish up. Thank you so much again for all those that came to be here this evening for your testimony. think we are back, and we are now on item number 8. Yes, we are on item number 8. So this is request for reconsideration regarding the Canyon Crossing Number 2 subdivision that was before council on April 7th. So this is there's no testimony on this. Simply, we're going to have Oscar just present really quick on it, and then it's up to the council whether you feel that it should come back for reconsideration or not in the future, or for a new item in the future if it is approved for reconsideration.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for taking most of my presentation up for me.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, the request for the application is for the reconsideration is from the Canyon County Crossing Project on the decision of the council to modify the development agreement with the condition that the original number of dwelling units remain in place. Caldwell City Code permits a reconsideration. It's a two-step process. The first process is where we're here tonight is to consider whether to grant the request, and then the second step would be to actually have the reconsideration hearing. The council can reconsider on 6 specified grounds that are in the code. The applicant here asking for reconsideration has argued that the decision by the council is unsupported by the evidence. It does not comply with Idaho law. The conclusion of staff, who have reviewed this, is that a denial of the request is defensible. It's up to the council to determine whether or not to entertain the reconsideration in the next stage or to vote no now. With that, I'd stand for questions.
Good, thanks so much, Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is our denial was based on a contract that we had. It's called a development agreement, if I'm calling it the right thing. And so I would say, because we want to hold to that original contract, I wouldn't be interested in rehearing it. Am I misstating it by referring to it in those terms, or could I?
Mayor Wagner, Councilman Williams, the original decision wasn't to deny. The decision that came before the council on April 7th was approved with the condition that the original dwelling units stay in place.
Thank you for clarifying, but that's correct.
But I think to your point is that the development agreement is I view that differently than some other things. And just as you said, it would be more in the realm of a contract and an agreement. So the city has the ability to ask the applicant or require the applicant to stay with those commitments that were made when the development agreement went into place, which would be different than other sorts of actions. And so therefore that would be the basis why this would be different.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for, yes, Councilor Doty?
I'm just curious can we know what they're doing? Because if they're going to make it less or better, I agree everything with what Councilor Williams said. I think they should stick to the original agreement, but if they're going to do some of the things that we heard from the comments from the audience, can we know that in advance? Because maybe they've heard our citizens and said, we want to change this thing completely to help mitigate some of those. Otherwise, I mean, it could be a better project.
Mayor Wagner, Councilman Doty, I don't want to speak for what the applicant has said. My understanding when I read the reconsideration and the request is to reconsider the conditions that were placed in there to stay with the original number of dwelling units. And that's the purpose for the reconsideration. If you are interested in that and really want to look into it, then the reconsideration process is where that would happen.
I'm guessing they don't have that prepared at this time, so I'll stick with Councilor Williams on the original, what we originally agreed to.
Councilor Register?
So this is the project that we heard not long ago with Mr. Giuliani, right? I just want to make sure I have the right developer. Okay. I think the problem that I'm having is that he's not here to answer the questions. And this isn't the first time that he hasn't been here when he's asked for something. So if he's invested in our community, he would be here, in my opinion, to be able to answer questions like what Councilor Doty just asked. What do you want to do differently? So I guess I don't have a question for you, more of a statement that I'm not interested in revisiting this with him either.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, Councilwoman Register, I do believe the applicant has his legal counsel here. However, this is not the sort of, he wouldn't, even if he were here at this stage of the proceedings, he would not be permitted to testify before council or talk to the council. So I just wanted, I think in
Well-
fairness, to be able to say that that wouldn't be permitted regardless of whether he was here or not.
Well, I appreciate that, but I still prefer to have people invested in our community physically show up, even if they can't speak. That's just my opinion.
Any other questions for Oscar? Counselor?
Mr. Mayor, I was just gonna, and I believe Councilor Doty came to the conclusion, but it says here that the applicant is requesting we reconsider exactly what he asked for the first time. There was no changes that it looks like to me. It looks like the same exact thing as what we declined or said no to. We want him to stay with the original agreement, so anyway.
Counselor Register?
With that, I'm going to make a motion to deny the reconsideration.
Good, so that is a motion from Counselor Register for denial of the reconsideration request, and then a second from Counselor Doty. Discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, then voting is open at this.
Yes means no, and no means yes on this one?
Very good. So yes, if you're voting yes, you're voting in yes for the recommended denial of the reconsideration, or for the motion denial, not recommended. So all votes are cast, and so voting is closed, and that motion does pass unanimously. And again, the motion was for denial of the reconsideration, so that does deny the request. And so with that, that moves us into items 9, 10, and 11, which basically are all about the same thing. And so we'll just kind of cover those in one fell swoop, if that works for you, Haley, in that regards.
Mayor, council members, so the next three items, 9, 10, 11, are with regard to our sewer project over on 21st Avenue. We currently have a lift station that we're working towards decommissioning. To decommission it, we need to continue the project that had been started several years ago to bring a large gravity main line to the well, or excuse me, wells are on my mind, to the lift station site location. So we're working on the construction documents and the bid documents to construct the new gravity main to decommission the lift station on 21st. As part of that design, we need to acquire easements from a handful of residences. We've acquired most of the easements, however, there are 2 remaining easements that we need to acquire in order to decommission this lift station. So these next 3 items are with regard to acquiring both the permanent easement as well as a temporary construction easement for us to be able to complete this project. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Very good, thank you so much. Questions, Counselor Doty?
Mr. Mayor, can we go into more detail as to why item 11 was added to new business? Just what is, I read what it is, but what are we talking about exactly that it gives you the authority to do from us if we approve this?
So, Mr. Mayor, can I?
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm going to add, is this an adverse possession action?
It's not an adverse, not an adverse possession action, it's a condemnation and an eminent domain action.
Okay, so it's an eminent domain action, not an adverse action, okay.
Correct.
To your point, yeah,
Okay, let's hear what somebody says.
Okay. Haley, do you mind?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for the clarification. So for item number 11, we are working with the attorney group, Jones, William, Furman, Gorley, PA, and they're going to be providing the legal services as part of the eminent domain for these easements. So this is the group that will manage this eminent domain for us as we look to procure this property.
So I'm struggling with this because someone didn't do the proper job, right? Which was the first company. Now we're asking, now the city is putting property into eminent domain because the original company failed on their commitment to us?
Yeah, so the original design of this sewer was going to remain completely within our right-of-way, within the street. As we have been negotiating and working with the Assurity company, in order to get the full amount from our Assurity company, we had to look at various designs to complete this project. The design that was ultimately agreed upon and decided on now is it just is a continuation of Main Street, and so it's a more of a straight shot, if you will, from Main Street over to where the lift station is. So the alignment changed during this process.
Yep, I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying what you're saying is a bad idea. What I struggle with is telling someone, we're going to take your property because this other company didn't do what they were supposed to do, and now this is a better idea. Does that make sense? That's what I'm struggling with.
Do you mind going into more detail on, because we've received the easement from all the properties minus these two, so we went into negotiations. Do you mind going into a little more, you or Oscar, about the details of how those negotiations went and why we are now going to this route rather than the negotiation?
Yes, I can provide some more detail. I want to be very mindful, though, that because we are going into the eminent domain process, I'm not sure how, and Oscar, or our city attorney, can certainly chime in. I don't want to go into too much detail and misspeak, and perhaps it needs to be, the greater detail needs to be in an executive session. I can say that we worked with these two property owners and we could not agree upon a price because we have a very tight schedule to get this lift station offline. We need to work quickly to get this lift station offline and put this gravity line in to decommission it. Because of the timing and the inability to come to an agreed upon price is why these two remaining properties are at this stage of the process where we're looking at an eminent domain for easements, not for a full right-of-way taking.
Yeah, so we could, if council wants, because we do have the executive session that we always notice that we may go into executive session. So if we want, we could, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we could continue these just to the end of the agenda, get through everything, then go into executive session, then come back out and make a decision on these after we come out of the executive session.
Mr. Mayor, may I just add one thing? I think, Mr. Doty, your question is, why are we paying for this process when it wasn't our fault to begin with? It should have been completed by a previous contractor.
Well, kind of. My worry is because I get we're in the predicament we're in, right? We can't avoid that. My issue is now, because of that, and I guess maybe we would have to go into, I'm not sure I want to do that tonight, Mr. Mayor, for an hour or two in executive session, but, because I think it's important. But because of that company failing to do what they said they would do, I get that we're in this predicament. But now, to go into eminent domain in order to rectify this issue causes me concern, right? So now we're going to make a property owner, or two it sounds, say, well, yeah, but we're going to eminent domain your property because this company over here didn't do what they said they were going to do. And so I just struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not upset with anyone, I just am struggling with that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Doty, I appreciate that. It's, we've all struggled with this process, and it's unfortunate the way it's panned out. All of the costs associated with this are going to be pushed back to the surety company to cover. So that, I guess, is step one, the cost of whatever the settlement's going to be. It is the intent that the surety company would cover those costs because we are in this position because of their contractor not fulfilling their obligation. Routing the sewer line, there's not a good way to do it. It's a double-edged sword. If we weren't doing it through these yards, then we would be out tearing up blocks of Arthur Street, which have other utilities in them and other complications. And then you're in everybody's front yard and you're causing that kind of distress on everybody. Sure. And so we've looked at this very closely. That was the original plan, that's what we were going to do. As we met with the surety company, they wanted us to pursue this option. And we looked at it and we knew there were concerns about securing easements. Fortunately, 5 of the property owners were amenable and very agreeable, and those are completed. And we have these 2. And so it does put us in a bad situation, but the 21st Avenue lift station is in critical condition. I mean, it's old, it needs to be rebuilt or taken offline, and so we have to push this through. If we had more time to negotiate with these property owners, then we would do that, but with the way the negotiation was going, we didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and we feel like this is the most expedient process. We've been through this process a few times before. We're familiar with it. At the end of the day, they're going to get paid for their losses. But we get the property now, so we can get the project going, and then we settle out what the costs are, the impacts to their properties. And so it's our recommendation that we move forward on this, and we,
They will get paid then in the end,
the,
something.
the residents,
If eminent domain goes through,
Yes.
they'll still get it.
yeah, they get paid. It's just a process where we can't negotiate on a cost, so it's a quick take. We get the property immediately, and then the negotiation spills out, and they get paid, they get compensated. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Counselor Stronach?
Mr. Mayor, Rob, what were the reasons these other two residents didn't want to settle or give you the okay?
I don't know the reasons specifically. I know that we had a negotiator reach out to all the property owners.
Do you think it might have been price or?
The price for these individuals kept increasing, let's just put it that way.
Okay, all right, that's good enough, thank you.
Which would be really good information if we need to go into executive session. I would love to tell you, but it sounds like I can't right now. But if we want, and it would just be a 5-10 minutes. So if you want to go in there and get the details, we'd love to do that. If not, we can try to get through these questions.
Well, I was going to make a motion, but now I want the details, so I think we could go into executive session for 5 minutes.
So what we would do, and it's up to the council, we could move 9, 10, 11 to the end of the agenda and then go through the rest and then do, like I said, a quick executive session. Again, wouldn't be any decisions made, just to kind of tell you how we got to the numbers where we're at, what we'd be looking at, and then we come back and then finish up on those, on the council comments, if you wish, so.
Should I hold my question on number 11 till then? I don't think it's an executive session question, but I'm confused why Fairgrounds, which I thought Caldwell owned, with the exception of a building, is something we would need to eminent domain, or is the partner who owns that property the Fairgrounds? I don't understand how the Fairgrounds is getting in here.
I think it's just the name of it. I'm not sure why, so
It's
it's
the
nothing
name
with the
of, the name of the
fairgrounds.
lift station is on the fairgrounds, but the sewer line that we are talking about is on the west side of 21st Avenue.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry for the confusion.
Mr. Mayor, then I'm going to suggest we have a quick, or bypass these, go to number 12, I guess. Have a quick executive, come back and vote on it.
Or we could do, because I'm not sure if there's other people here for 13, 12 or 13, so we could just continue 9, 10, 11 to the end of the agenda. We're
That's
move
what I
those to
mean.
the end and move into item number 12. And I don't think that requires a motion, just to move those to the end of the agenda and take them up at that time. So,
That sounds good.
okay. So then, yes, so then we would just continue those 9, 10, 11 to the end of the agenda after item number 14. So that would be at, put us to number 12, resolution 178-25. I think, is that for you also?
Yes.
So, okay.
Sorry, I just had to switch my notes. So item number 12, Mr. Mayor, council members, we are proposing to make amendments to the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District specifications. We just are continuing to, as we continue to learn and grow, we are narrowing down what our specifications need to look like for the long-term maintenance for Caldwell residences. You should have received a red-lined copy of these changes, but I can just touch on a couple of them really quickly so that you are aware of what the proposed changes will be. On page 7, we are adding options for well casing material selection. On page 14, we are adding locate wire surface connection minimum distance. Again, on page 14, we are removing any authorization to use thrust blocks, and we prefer to use mechanical joints. Authorized placement of locate wire. Pages 23 through 24, we added a minimum footprint for our pump houses. In addition, we added requirement that all components must be a 3-phase power of 277 or 480 volts, along with an exhaust fan and lighting requirements at our pump houses. On page 25, we added motor and filter pressure transducer requirements. Page 25 through 27, We revised variable frequency drive, our VFD enclosure requirements. 27 through 28, we created pump station electrical specifications, which include watertight conduits, wiring related for necessary voltage, harmonic transformer specifications, electrical service voltage, lighting requirements, exhaust fan requirements, and SCADA requirements. Page 28, we revised the filter, plumbing, and flow meter requirements. And then page 32, we added motor RPM limits, as well as surge protection capacity and wiring requirements. Lastly, pages 43 and 44, we have added we've revised the minimum main size to be a 6-inch diameter and a minimum wet well size and clearance to pumps. So if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to dive into these, but these are the requirement specifications that we're looking to change.
Councilor Williams.
Thank you for your expertise. I mean that sincerely. So I only have one question for you. Are these normal industry standards?
Yes.
That's all I needed to know.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, very good. Do we have any motions in regards to this resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 17825, accepting amendments to the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District specifications as printed.
Second.
Motion from Councilor Williams, second from Councilor Denber for approval of the resolution. Any discussion on that motion? Councilor Allgood?
I was just going to say, if I ever have trouble sleeping, I'm just going to go read this. This sounded terribly exciting.
Oh, very good.
TV
Okay.
turned off.
TV is off.
We have one more.
One more TV? Or-
The TV got turned off automatically because it went to sleep. But the ones on the side are on.
It's like everybody but Chris, I think. Councilor Allgood. There we go. Okay, all votes are cast on that. So with that, voting is closed.
Now he's busy.
I think it's the wrong TV, Rob. Are you on the front? Oh, they're both. Oh. Oh, now that one's off. We better keep going until they all shut off. So. Very good. Yep. I think we're okay. So we can get by with where we're at. There we go. Okay, get that one out. Okay, very good. So with that, voting is closed, and we'll have the reveal here in a second. And that motion passes unanimously. So that will be now on to item 13. This was removed from the consent calendar.
Say something about
Yeah.
this real quick. So I had asked that it be moved, and the reason why was because the title of downtown decorative improvements and then the amount of $300-some thousand was, I just thought that maybe the community needed to hear exactly what it was for, that we're not talking about like plant hangers and lights and stuff like that, that it's actually stuff that we need to spend money on or that it's going to benefit the downtown. That was the only reason why I brought it off.
So that it's not a $10,000 toilet or a
Yeah.
$5,000 hammer.
Yeah.
Like the federal
or
government likes to do.
Something decorative.
Would you mind just kind of a brief description then of what that will pay for?
Yes, absolutely. So this project specifically is going to pay for bulb out, the bulb outs for the pedestrian ramps. Those bulb outs provide both better pedestrian safety, and then also it's a good traffic calming measure to have those bulb outs at our intersections in the downtown area. So that's what this specific notice of award is to continue the install of bulb outs in the downtown area.
And those have already been budgeted for. This is not anything extra that we haven't already anticipated using money on.
That's correct. We had budgeted for this as part of the LID, Downtown Decorative Improvements. However, because we were not getting very many participants in the downtown wanting to participate in the LID, we thought that it would be more appropriate to bid it as its own project so that we could get the best price for just the bulb out improvements.
Well, that was it for me, so if nobody has any question, or
I just wanted to get something on the record. Haley and I talked about it earlier.
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
Okay, so Haley, in our agenda item information, It says the city received 2 responsive bids, but the documents show 3 bids. I just want to clarify that that's correct, that we had 3 bids. Am I correct there?
That is correct. We had 3 bidders.
Okay. And then the second part of that is what you and I discussed. Is it, under the winning bid on one item said no response. I wanted to make sure that that's appropriate.
Yes, thank you. So the no response from Hawkeye Builders was under the bid documents portion of our bidding. If you look into what our bid documents define, that bid documents category on OpenGov, you will see that bid documents was described to say, upload any other documents you wish to submit with your bid or that have been noted as required. We didn't have any noted to be required additional documents, so this was just an opportunity for bidders to provide additional information if they
So
wish.
even though it says no response, they did everything appropriately.
Correct.
That's what I needed. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or motion?
I am prepared then to make a resolution to approve the resolution accepting the notice of bid for the 2025 downtown decorative improvements in the amount of $303,950 as accommodated within the budget.
Very good. Second?
Second.
So motion from Councilor Register and a second from Councilor Stadek for approval of this resolution. Any discussion? So with that, then voting is open at this time. If you can stretch your eyes to see, there we go, all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. So with that, we'll move into item number 14 at this time, a finance report.
Mr. Counselor Allgood still owes me an adult beverage, so I'll turn this back over to him because he owes me one.
Councilor Allgood.
I move that accounts payable in the amount of $4,894,489.70, represented by check numbers 185296 through 185621, and electronic payments and payroll for the amount of $740,909.06, represented by check numbers 39900 through 39920, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Second?
Second.
So that's a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Stadek for approval of the finance report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That motion passes. So with that, I don't know, Councilor Register, if you want to make, so it's just be that one right there, if you want to go into the motion for the executive session.
So that I move we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74206, subsection 1C, for the purpose of discussing the acquisition of or an interest in real property not owned by a public agency.
Do we have a second? That's a motion from Councilor Register and a second from Councilor Stadek to go into executive session for the reason as listed. Madam Clerk, do you mind calling the roll?
Register,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Allgood,
Yes.
Dittender,
Yes.
Doty,
Yes.
Stotty.
Yes.
So that motion passes. So we will be moving into executive session. Again, no decisions will be made during that time. After that, we do expect to come out and discuss on 9, 10, and 11. So while we do need everyone to vacate the room for the executive session, you're more than welcome. It shouldn't last long to come back in afterwards, and we'll take up those items after that executive session. Good. Okay, so we are good and back up and going. So we are out of executive session. Again, there was no decisions made at that time, and we do have the doors back open for anybody that's out there to come in and join us. So now we will take up items 9, 10, and 11 that were under discussion earlier. So if you do have any questions for Haley, she's obviously here in that regards, any additional. But if not, I think we can take 9 and 10 as one, and then we'd take 11 under separate consideration if council's
Mr.
up for
Mayor?
that. Yes.
Debbie encouraged me to do it differently, but I'll lump 9 and 10 together. I move that we consider resolution number 176-25 and resolution number 177-25, both regarding to the sewer line and easement, construction easement.
Very good. So that's a motion for approval of those resolutions. Is that correct, Councilor Dittenber?
That is correct.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
So that's a second from Councilor Register. So any discussion on that motion? And then we do need, I'm guessing, voting. Yep, there it is. So we have the voting up and ready, and the voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and those resolutions do pass. So that'll move into item 11, resolution 179-25. And this, again, is somewhat different. This is for the agreement with City of Caldwell and this law firm for them to handle those legal services. Again, that is due to the bandwidth of our current city attorney and also Mr. Hilty's office at maximum. So we need to have an outside firm to handle this for them.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Dittenberg.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 179-25, authorizing the execution of agreement between the City of Caldwell and Joan Williams Furman Gurley, private attorneys for providing professional legal services for the right-of-way procurement related to the Fairground Sewer Line Extension, specifically Carl W. Anderson condemnation and Lawrence and Allison Reese condemnation.
Do you have a second?
Second.
That's a motion from Councilor Dittenberg and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of resolution 179-25. Any discussion on that motion? With that, voting is open at this time as well. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes also. And as you know, we already have everything else done, so we're going to jump us right into council comments. Councilor Doty.
Let's see, I toured the rodeo grounds and the swimming pool. And to keep it short tonight, I just want to know the swimming pool, sometimes it's hard for people to picture that, but they replaced 2 buildings and the swimming pool. So that helps you give you a better idea of why the costs are what they were, and they even reused some boiler equipment, it looked like, and everything else is new and computerized with all the things that they have to do in there. It is quite amazing. So I just want to make that clear that it's more than just a swimming pool and a hole in the ground. It's a swimming pool and 2 additional, a pump house and a bathhouse, and that's how you get to expenses that are where they're at. So thank you.
Very good. Councilor Stoddard?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I got a question for Rob. I had a couple taxpayers stop me in a coffee shop Tuesday morning relative to backflow devices. Some of them are doing it and some aren't because they say the city never checks it. Do we check those backflow devices? And do we charge for it?
Yeah, I would have to refresh with the water department on what our standard is, but I know we have designated employees in the water department that are certified to inspect backflow prevention devices. Residences or businesses are supposed to do that once a year.
Right.
And if they don't, then they're in violation of state code, is my recollection. To what extent we double check that, I'm not exactly positive. I'd have to get back with you and let you know.
Okay.
If there's like a registry somewhere that has all that in there, I'm not sure.
Because one taxpayer said he spent like $50 to have it checked, and his neighbor said, well, hell, don't worry about it. They never check anyhow. So, anyway.
I hope you told them that they should be doing it.
I just told him I'd check with the city and find out. But those were his words, not mine. So, anyway, the other item I've got is, want to let everybody know, but the Call of Veterans Memorial Hall is partnering with the Treasure Valley Habitat for Humanities, and what we're trying to do is those veterans who qualify financially, we're going to help them out with repairs on their homes. I guess there's been a lot of requests through the hall on that. We're going to concentrate on veterans here in the west part of the valley only, so I think that's a good thing. And the other thing is, and I think the mayor knows about it now, but the disabled vets and the American Legion, they want to erect a special monument for Carrie French, the gal that was killed over in Iraq. And they've had several nations come in already, but they're going to set up a statue identical to what she looks like out in front of the vet hall there, and for everybody to see. So, and some of the guys have talked to the family already, and they thought that was a good idea. I think there's some papers on your desk.
Yep, yeah, and I think that we're gonna have those, I talked to Debbie, just to
Okay.
ensure the council's aware, so I think those will come on a consent item, probably, we're gonna discuss it, so appreciate you
Okay,
bringing that up,
great.
so.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Council Register.
Yeah, I have a few things. I guess the one question I have for you, well, it's not really a question, it's an ask, and you can do it or not. But I would really like it if we could have our discussions before motions are made. I think it's a respect issue, and I realize that once the motion is made, there's still time for discussion. And sometimes the motion has to be made if the discussion's going on too long. But I really think that it lends to more respect and professionalism if everybody gets a chance to speak before the motion's actually made, and then see what discussion happens from there. Also, the airport is going to be coming to us soon with a strategic plan, which I think is going to be very interesting, that I've been able to sit in on, so I hope everybody's open to listening to that. We had a suggestion from a community member that on the consent calendar, that because we don't go through those one by one, that when money is used, if it would be something where, like say the police department wants to use $100,000 for something, that then their budget total is listed, kind of like a running total. That was do you know what kind of what I'm saying there?
Yes, I understand.
Kind of like a running total, so that it just stays, so people can just stay aware. So like, the water fund on number 12, you moved money so then it would just have the balances, I guess. And then, again, I think we've heard a lot about growth like we always do, and we talked a little bit about this. The county clerk did a presentation over at Nampa, and apparently they got a lot of really good information out of it, so I'd really like to consider Caldwell having that same presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. I don't know which staff is feeling badgered, but I would like to go on record with the one citizen that's still in the chambers, how great our staff is doing, our planning and zoning, I know we don't call them that anymore, but they've done a tremendous job doing some heavy lifting on some tremendous growth and movement for our city and our department. Haley, just only get rave reviews from people that are working with you. Our HR director has been doing some great work, and we are so lucky to have her. Even our airport director of aviation. So many really good things going on out there, and I just want to go on record commending staff. And let me not forget our economic development staff, and that's not to say that the rest of our staff isn't as well, but our economic development director is a godsend, and they deserve to be praised, and if anybody's badgering them, they need to be reined in because it's inappropriate and unfortunate. I'd also like to, again, I know Raylene couldn't be here today, but make sure the record reflects that in 2023, the police department was nearly $500,000 under budget, and in 2024, close to $1 million under budget. And the way we have our discussions doesn't always reflect that well for the community to understand how those numbers work, but our police and fire department need to be supported and commended for those good jobs of managing their budgets that they do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Allgood.
I just wanted to commend Ms. Geyer and somewhat for Councilor Doty for carrying the torch. I was pretty skeptical of our graffiti removal program because of how much it costs. But the other day I was out running on my route, and there was graffiti that went up. So I stopped and took some pictures, and it was a couple, I was gonna report it. A couple days later, I hadn't reported it yet. It went by and it's gone. I mean, that's how graffiti needs to be dealt with, and I just appreciate the fact that it was taken care of so quickly.
All right, thank you so much. Councilor Dittenber.
Just a couple things. First of all, to reiterate what Councilor Williams said, and I don't know where we've got this notion that if we repeat it over and over again, that it's somehow true that we're over budget and we're borrowing from next year's budget and we're in the hole. We're not. And so we need to do what we can to dispel the rumors at any cost that we are not over budget until we are given such information from Ray Lynn, and of course, she's not here tonight. On a good note, the Farmway Village has its annual carnival this Friday and Saturday, so can't think of a better thing to do than to take your mother on Mother's Day to a carnival out at Farmway Village. It's the first carnival of the season, and it's a great time, so anybody's welcome.
Perfect, thank you so much. So just a few things, just make sure council is aware. So I'll try to do these in orders of date. So May 7th, I was going through my calendar, just so you're aware, there is a ribbon cutting for Lions Park at 9 a.m. So make sure that you're aware of that if you'd like to be there for that. That's just celebrating the improvements that we have been able to do there with the new shade structure, the new barbecue grills. There's a lot more improvements coming out there, so that'll be in conjunction with Lynn Johnson and the Lions organization, the Lions Club. So that's this Wednesday at 9 a.m. And then also looking at the schedule on the 12th, just so you're aware that the Caldwell School Board has invited all of us out to their meeting that evening. If you wish to do another Monday meeting, that's at 7 p.m. They're going to be recognizing, I believe, the fire department that evening, if I remember correctly. So just make sure that you're aware of that. And then I think that is all except for on the 23rd. That is for the swimming pool grand opening. So we're excited for that. Going to have a big celebration out there. And just inviting the public for a free swim. There's going to be a movie night as well, doing different things for that just to celebrate the pool being opened after so many years. So we're excited for that. So just want to make sure that's on your radar. And that's really all that I have for this evening. So,
Mr. Mayor, just
yes.
to clarify.
Yeah.
I've got something that says Lion Park ribbon cutting May 17th.
That's what I have.
Oh, is that, mine is on 7th. So good thing I brought that up then. So is that?
It's at 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., so I just.
Yes, the 17th is a Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. So I just clicked on it, and now it's in the notes, it says Lion Park discussion. So it sounds
Okay.
like I'm talking
Okay,
to Lynn about that. So thank you for,
It is the 17th?
okay.
That's what I have.
So
What time?
12 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much for that clarification. So again, that's going to be the 17th at 12 p.m. So nothing this week that I can see.
You'd have to buy coffee if I was there.
Probably a couple cups, I would imagine. So the 12th at 7 p.m. at the Caldwell School Board, and then the 17th for the ribbon cutting at Lions Park at noon, and then the 23rd is the pool party that evening. So that is, thank you for that clarification. on
Mr.
that.
Mayor,
So,
there-
yes.
26th is Memorial Day.
That's right, at the cemetery.
Mr. Mayor, one other thing that's
Yes.
probably important to note, and this is a key thing, is that this Friday is the first public opening of our city's famous restaurant, Amano. And so they are taking dinner reservations for this Friday, and a shout out to Saul and his great staff and great workers that got the place open. It's a remarkable restaurant, and the things that he's done to the inside to make it Caldwell's best is a remarkable feat. So.
Very good. Yes, thank you so much for highlighting that. They are amazing individuals down there. They do great work. So that is all that I have, and I think that looks like all for the rest. So with that, we stand adjourned.